In Loveland this morning, TJ Van Garderen signs autographs after he completed a wonderful time trial yesterday in Vale. Now, can he win this race when we get to Denver? Tom Danielson, his major rival on the highways, came up a little bit short, but he's still on a podium finish. Yesterday was the 5th day of the race. TJ Van Garderen, the last man to start of all of the field, to an enormous cheer. Then, further up the Vale Valley, TJ Van Garderen was riding to a course record time, big enough to increase his lead over all of his rivals. It was the hardest time trial of his life, but it was worth it. TJ Van Garderen now 2 days in yellow as he comes into the area around Denver. He's now bound for Fort Collins, and that is next. Yes, day 6 of 7. The riders already have left Loveland now, which in fact is only about 15 minutes drive from the finishing line in Fort Collins. But today's 6th stage, 115 miles, which is brought to you by New Belgium Brewing. This is the finishing line, and in fact we can't see it here, but there is a women's race taking place at the moment, so a nice clear road for them as the crowd here now enjoying this famous old town of Fort Collins here. Let's have a look first of all at the United Healthcare overall standings. This is how it is after the time trial yesterday, and look at the gap that TJ Van Garderen opened yesterday. 90 seconds over teammate Frank, 142 over Tom Danielson in third. Acevedo, the winner in Beaver Creek, is fourth, and Loveland Morton, the best young rider in this race thus far, sits in 5th place at 2:34. Well, I can tell you the riders today have not wasted any time at all. They're running currently at an average speed of just over 32 miles an hour. Nobody has got away from the field. Well, lovely scenery, Paul, but this is the pattern we've seen throughout the first hour of racing today. Attack after attack. This is Michael Rogers going again. Michael has been a principal player in all of the attacks this morning.
He's looking to show off his jersey. He's wearing the orange jersey there as the most courageous rider in this event, because they didn't award that presentation yesterday because it was an individual time trial. But Mick Rogers has already lost himself a good 10 minutes in this bike race, but he's not lost any of his inspiration at all. Obviously getting used to the altitude towards the end of this bike race, realizing today is probably the last day when a breakaway can succeed, because tomorrow on the circuit race around Denver it'll be very high speed and difficult for a breakaway to fall.
Yes, we had a feeling a breakaway would get away early on and survive, but they haven't had the same thought back in the peloton because they've continued to attack. Let's just have a look at the route map today by Colorado.com. This is the map they face. Loveland, by the way, just literally down the road from where we are at the finish.
It's only 12 miles away from the finishing line, but the organisation have made it a very difficult 115-mile route to get back into the town of Fort Collins. The high spot there, Devil's Gulch, a very, very difficult climb, and then a tricky little descent through Masonville, and then into the home of the Colorado State University, Fort Collins. This is what the profile looks like. A very rapid start, as you can see, flat all the way back to Loveland, but then 7,944 feet over Devil's Gulch.
There's the yellow jersey. Now, just today and tomorrow to defend it for TJ Van Garderen. He's feeling very comfortable, having increased his lead over his teammate, Matthias Frank, to 90 seconds yesterday. Let's have a look at the Novo Nordisk weather report. 83 degrees. We're getting warm again. Everybody be pleased about that. Very light winds, partly cloudy, but no rain forecast on this Saturday in Colorado. So looking down from the helicopter on the peloton, still all together. Unusual sight that. Let's check in then with Steve Perino on the moto. Steve.
Phil, interesting conversation had this morning with Dan Hunt of Sky. Said they're going to be involved in the break. Steve Schlanger and I were listening to how he sold us on the idea that it would be anyone, but it would not be Port and it would not be Froome. Because listen, those guys were at the Tour de France. It takes so much out of your body. You can't be ready for the Tour of Colorado at this kind of altitude. Well, the beginning of this race has been punctuated by nothing but Port and Froome going off the front. So when I talked to Dan Hunt, I said, hey, what's the deal? What's going on? He said, hey, I can't tell you everything.
Yes, we've seen both Richie Port and Chris Froome in the attacks. We've seen groups of up to 10 riders getting clear. The average speed continues to slow down a little bit now. Another split again under pressure. We're heading out towards Devil's Gulch, which we top out at 49 miles into the stage of 115 miles today. We're currently through 31 miles having been ridden and an average speed of 32.3. These are the leaders of the moment. Jess Anthony there, the USA rider. You see the time gaps are on the right. They're the minutes and seconds they are behind TJ Van Garderen. So Van Garderen will just monitor who is being pushed into the attack here. Well, as we watch here the Riders Beneath Blue Skies, let's have a look back to Aspen when we opened this race on stage 1 with the Aspen Snowmass stage. This was when Joe Dombrowski, who we touted as a favourite to win this race, but the altitude popped a vessel in his nose and he was in trouble with the doctor. Down at the finish, a familiar sight, although not in this race, because Peter Sagan is the man who has never ridden in this race before, but when he came to the sprint finish back in downtown Aspen, after 3 laps of 22 miles up to Snowmass and back, Peter Sagan was getting his first ever stage win here. And as a result, on the left of our picture here, taking on Great Van Avermaet of Belgium, Sagan, his first win for him, showing us his sponsor and his champion's jersey, replacing it with a yellow jersey for the start of the second day. Richard Shadden there, one of the major benefactors of this race, very happy to be up on the presentation stands there. So Sagan was the first leader this week in the USA Pro Cycling Challenge. Big crowd in Aspen as we swing back up towards the finish here. There's the women's race still in progress at the moment. We'll rejoin the action very, very shortly out on the highway as they head towards Devil's Gulch. Welcome back as we look down from the helicopter. This is stage 6 of the race today, which is presented by New Belgium Brewing, and it's a ride of 115 miles from nearby Loveland heading up to Fort Collins. We're going out in the countryside now in the mountains, and that's a little bit of the fault of our picture break up here with the Rockies all around us again. But that breakaway at the front at the moment, judging by our helicopter views, and now we can get down on the ground, has swelled to 15 riders now. Here's some of the names for you. Mejias is in there from Spain. Jess Anthony. Michael Rogers is the man that started it. Josh Edmondson has been attacking regularly all week for Sky. Tim Duggan is in there. Fabio Duarte also. But there are more than that now as they've tagged on to the back of the race. So as the riders continue now to push the pace, is it the right combination as we head up towards Devil's Gulch? Just looking up the valley here as we look at the breakaway. You can see the 15 riders forming at the front. Now just before the start today, the man in the hot seat is TJ Van Garderen. Well, here he is this morning talking with Steve Slanger.
TJ, it could be a surprisingly difficult day. A lot of teams are running out of time. What do you expect to be the biggest challenges you'll face on the road today?
Well, Garmin, they're definitely going to be aggressive. I mean, it's their hometown race, and they're definitely going to want to make something happen. And they're going to hit it hard up Estes Park and over the dams. And you know, I expect a big showdown with them today.
You look pretty wiped out after the time trial yesterday. How you feeling today?
I bounced back pretty well. I mean, I'm confident because I went to high school in Fort Collins my senior year, Rocky Mountain High, and so I know every inch of these roads that we're going to be on today. So I think I kind of have a little bit of the advantage in that way, and you know, gives my team a little confidence to know what's coming up.
What are you most satisfied with regarding your overall performance at this race?
Definitely that Vail time trial had to be the highlight. I mean, getting a stage win and you know, taking revenge from the poor performance in 2011, that was really something special.
TJ, good luck today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes, TJ home from home, and he's only recently moved to live in Aspen with his family, so he really is a man of Colorado these days, as TJ Van Garderen in the peloton here, just slipping away from the breakaway. Well, also in this breakaway, Paul, you can see him there, the Saxo rider is Bruno Pires, who is a rider from Portugal, and A strong man that's joined his teammate, Michael Rogers there, rummaging around in his pocket, see what's on. This breakaway beginning to open up a little bit.
Yes, the gap coming up now to 1 minute and 15 seconds. There's no major reaction in the main field. They wanted to see who was going to get into that breakaway group before they organised the change behind. It's not a surprise, though, to see Team Cannondale getting themselves organised on the front. Those are the riders in the black and lime green jerseys. Their man, Peter Sagan, has been the most consistent rider so far. He's lost a little bit of time, but when it comes to winning individual stages, he's very, very hard to beat.
Well, Cannondale quite clearly believe that they have a chance again with the stage win today in Fort Collins. Certainly, if there's no mountains in between, it would be a sprinter's delight up at the finishing line in Fort Collins. But at the moment, they're going to have to work hard. And this is going in the favour, of course, of TJ Van Garderen and Team BMC. It's also preventing Team Garmin Sharp doing any counter-attacking. And it's not quite the way Tom Danielson had in mind just now. Well, looking at Peter Sagan, he's also down behind his black guys. He's riding down the line there, just behind TJ Van Garderen on the far left of the picture. Well, as we look at the teammates here of Peter Sagan, he was the winner, don't forget, of stage 1. So on day 2 of this race, he moved off, heading for Breckenridge, 126 miles in the leader's yellow jersey. But this wasn't the course for the men, or the man we always call a top sprinter around the world. This was a real tough course, and a breakaway was soon forming. In that breakaway was Loveland Morton, number 6 there, and right up behind him, another youngster in the race, Lawson Craddock. This was to be a real battling day here because they climbed the Independence Pass to begin with, but by the end it was the Swiss rider Matthias Frank who got clear, almost in the streets of Breckenridge. But the best placed man in the lead group was Loveland Morton. So the Australian, who speaks with an American accent because he lives and trains here, was now the new leader for Garmin Sharp in the USA Pro Challenge. Just looking down into the gully here as the peloton S's the way through. Downhill at the moment, big peloton together, but moving clear. This breakaway trying to open a gap now. 75 seconds for the riders up front. I counted 15 from the helicopter. We haven't had a real good shot of them yet. Some new names up there, Bruno Pires and Kurt Carlson. Time to take on a little bit of food, it looks like, for the race leader today. 180 miles these riders will pedal in this final 2 days of racing, today and tomorrow. Tomorrow we go downtown Denver. And this is the last seriously hilly course here. The last time they rubbed shoulders with the Rocky Mountains. Just that one big climb in the middle, a second category climb. We topped that. It's Devil's Gulch at 49 miles in. Then we've got one sprint at Estes Park. And then we start to go slightly downhill, and the final undulations bring us into Fort Collins. So still a lot to race for. I don't think the men who are thinking of podium places will be too happy. A breakaway of 15 is taking away the glory just now. But we'll find out whether they chase them down or not. Down in the valley, the hills they've been tackling all week now. For the moment, they're right down in the middle of them there, but they've got to climb out over Devil's Gulch today as they head towards Fort Collins in the USA Pro Challenge. The Rockies all around them here. We're right down at the end of the chain as we head towards Fort Collins, which is 115 miles in the saddle today, so more than 4 hours pedaling for the riders. And a breakaway still trying to establish itself here. Nudged out another 5 seconds, and that is all. Minute 20 seconds the lead at the moment. Good variety, good cross-section of riders. Here's some of the names for you. Tiago Machado, Bruno Pires, Mejias, Anthony, Michael Rogers of Australia started it, number 41 there. But he's 10 minutes behind overall, so he's not a markman as far as Team BMC are concerned. Andrew Talansky, the rider who almost won yesterday, has got into the move as well. He started to really get to grips here with the altitude after a slow start to this week. A man that really aspired to great things in the Tour de France with a fine 10th place overall in that race in July. He comes from Miami. There aren't too many hills on the beaches of Miami, but he's certainly riding well now. Well, as we continue our story onto how the week has gone for these riders, let's move on now to stage 3 as we headed away from Breckenridge, heading to Steamboat Springs, 106 miles, and more mountains on the menu as well. This time, though, in the yellow jersey, enjoying an early morning lunch there, was Loveland Morton. Breakaways, as always, were forming at the front, and this breakaway was going a-hunting. But then Jens Voigt decided they weren't going quick enough, so he decided to go for gold himself. On the very, very fast run into Steamboat Springs, though, when it looked like he was going to survive, the race were lining up. They caught Jens Voigt almost in sight of the finish. And then the finish was enacted and the sprinters crossed swords. 1 or 2 were left lying in the road a couple of kilometres back, but the result was the same anyway, as Peter Sagan, for the second time in 3 days, was taking the sprint to the line. This time, though, he wasn't to get a yellow jersey, of course. That would stay on the shoulders of the man who finished just behind him, Loveland Morton. 2 days in yellow now for the rider on Garmin Sharp. So that's the story so far, as we've got you through day 3. Now here we are back with live pictures on day 6 of this race. Just looking down here, this is Tommy Danielson, who's now up to 3rd overall, and they're looking for 1:42 minutes. I'll be interested to know what his tactics are on this day. Maybe we can get to find out now, because before the race start, Steve Schlanger spoke to Tommy Danielson.
Tom, Van Garderen has a pretty healthy lead. The clock is ticking. How realistic is it to take back a lot of time today?
It's a bike race, and you got to always push on every day. I mean, Van Garderen has been extremely strong. He has a great team. They've ridden the race perfectly. We've ridden a great race as well, and I've got to be happy with where I'm sitting. You know, I've given it my all. He's just been better than me in the time trial, and of course the downhill. So. You know, not a lot of there are no mountaintop finishes, not a lot of mountains, big mountains for me in this race. So I've got to look for opportunities, and today we'll sniff it out and see what it is. But yeah, realistically, he's won the race. You know.
How do you battle against a guy who's just so strong?
You know, you got to look for opportunities. You know, obviously a little bit stronger than him on the steep climbs, but he looked for opportunities with his team on some of the other stages and then on the descents. And the time trial suited him perfectly, and he did a fantastic time trial. So just like he looked for opportunities, I have to do the same. Like you said, the clock is ticking, we're running out of time. But, you know, I live around here, so does he, so we'll see what we can do. But, yeah, we're definitely missing that giant mountaintop finish for sure.
Tom, thanks a lot. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Well, he gave it a go very early on today, Tommy Danielson, but now the breakaway of 14, in fact, have now got clear. Well, not too far away from Fort Collins, but between the peloton and the main finishing line, there is the climb of Devil's Gulch, and at the moment we're going through 36 miles point, and we'll top out at 49 miles at the top. 14 riders confirmed now in that breakaway down there, and the best placed in there is Tiago Machado, 6 minutes and 21 seconds behind overall. So TJ Van Garderen will not be too concerned by this move.
Not for the moment anyway, Phil. You know, 6 minutes and 21 seconds is not an easy amount of time to pull back when you come down to the last couple of days of a race like this. But a breakaway going clear like this puts pressure on a team. However, there are 2 teams I think have a reason to work at the front. Team Cannondale, as you can see, they're thinking about their man Peter Sagan, and they'll get some help from BMC.
So there they are, doing what we call bit and bit, or through and off. They just set the pace and then they allow the wind to push them backwards. They join in at the back of the line, they come through in the slipstream, and then they do a little bit of effort again. It's having a good effect at the moment as they go clear. Welcome back. We're on the road to Fort Collins today. Stage 6 of 7 days of racing here in the USA Pro Challenge, and it's the teammates now of the rider who won stages 1 and 3, Peter Sagan. This is the Cannondale team, trying to bring back a group of 14 riders who, after an hour of attacking racing, have prized open a small gap over the field. But they're not letting it go. 75 seconds it's come back to now. It went out to 80 seconds. And this is the Cannondale squad here. They are also a man down because they lost Fabio Sabatini. He got shoulder injuries when he crashed on stage 4. That's where we're headed to now. It doesn't look like it, but we are going uphill and very shortly towards the top. Notice how that gradient really steepens up, almost vertical. It's a very hard top when we go over Devil's Gulch. as we come down. Now, we wouldn't be in Colorado without seeing the ranches and the horses, would we, as the race goes by. I think we can show you a little bit more information on this climb. It's the last climb of this year's race. It's 3 miles to the summit. We go over the top with 66 to go. It's 5%, but that's the average. It's much steeper at the top. Deep in the belly of the Rocky Mountains now, as we look at the back of the peloton here. Now, we always, one or two of the riders carry small cameras here. It's called the drift camera, and I think we can show you some shots from the drift clip of the day. Here we go. As the riders here can get unusual views. These cameras now, of course, you put them on your helmets, you put them on your saddle. They are the big thing of the moment, and they give you some interesting pictures. That's our drift clip of the day. Back down to the peloton here. The peloton, the main body of cyclists, as they now line up to chase down 14 adversaries. A lot of distractions. This is the breakaway up here at the moment as they continue on their way. 115. There's Pat McCarthy's just going underneath our camera while pictures aren't behaving themselves too much for us today. I think it's because they are right down in the belly of the Rockies at the moment, and the mountains are all around us. There is TJ Van Garderen, Paul. He's back in the peloton. The main field is concentrating on the leaders, and whether TJ Van Garderen, he's not going to worry about these boys up front, is he?
Not for the moment. Their gap is 1 minute and 15 seconds. It's actually being pegged by a team of this man we're looking at now, Peter Sagan, because Peter Sagan is thinking about trying to win himself the victory here this afternoon. He's a great sprinter. He won the first stage and the third stage of this event, but he took this race so seriously that he came to the United States and spent 2 weeks in Aspen, Colorado before the start of the event to get himself acclimatized, and so far it's paid off.
Yes, he's down a teammate though, Peter Sagan. They all started basically with 8 riders on the squad, but on the stage 4, Fabio Sabatini, who crashed into Steamboat Springs, couldn't start stage 4, had a very badly damaged shoulder. So a valuable man not on his side today. Well, as we watch the riders taking on plenty of water today, wise men under these conditions. Let's continue our look back as we bring you towards the day stage. On to stage 4 now. The riders heading from Steamboat Springs, heading to Beaver Creek, following the Yampa River Valley. 103 miles is on the menu. This is where we saw the appearance of Hanier Acevedo. The rain found the race as they went up towards the top of the big climb of Bachelor Gulch. A select group of riders, by the time they got onto the next climb, the finishing climb of Beaver Creek, only 2 were left. The rain was absolutely torrential. I take my hats off to the spectators who held their ground. As coming up to the summit, Acevedo of Colombia got the win, but right behind him, shaking the hands of Acevedo, TJ Van Garderen, getting the race leader's yellow jersey, albeit by just a few seconds over his teammate, Matthias Frank. But now he was in the yellow jersey on the eve of the time trial. Meanwhile, back with live pictures, there's the peloton. They are going very, very quickly today. The average speed of the race has come down a little bit because the climbing up the gulch is 25.8 miles an hour now. But they're still climbing pretty quickly, and the gap is out to 90 seconds. That breakaway of 14 riders. The best placed rider in the breakaway is the Portuguese rider, Tiago Machado, on Team Radio Shack, but he's 6 minutes and 21 seconds behind TJ Van Garderen. That's why TJ Van Garden's team aren't interested, but Cannondale certainly are. They want them all back together, and hopefully then they can get the win with Peter Sagan. See you in a moment.
I mean, it's always an unknown racing at altitude. It's the long, arduous climbs that go at really high altitude. It changes a lot.
It's definitely very, very difficult. It's very unique, you know, with obviously the altitude being a big factor. There's nothing else that goes up that high for that long. You have to stay with the group, but you also have to stay in your own personal limits. At high altitude, sometimes it's hard to know where that is. You see some spectacular explosions, guys just really blowing themselves up. Headaches, nausea, sleeplessness, restlessness, all these are symptoms of altitude sickness.
I was pretty nauseous already at the altitude. I was trying to hold it in, but it just came out.
Oh, jeez.
What happened? I mean, I know you threw up.
Like a split second, 2 big bars.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's not a very pleasant feeling because you can't put out the same power at the altitude. You know, it's just a horrible out-of-breath feeling, and you seem to go slower and slower the higher you go up.
If you're not really used to the altitude, it makes it much tougher. Your legs just feel heavy. It's hard to just breathe.
It's actually bad to say that, but when you fall in a car, you have like headaches because of altitude.
I mean, I've been sleeping in an altitude tent for the past 3 weeks or so. So, I mean, I've been hoping that that'll help. It's going to be an incredibly tough challenge, and we're all looking forward to it.
Yes, here in Colorado, the heights are the big problem, of course. Back home in Europe, they start at sea level, but here, I think every day we've started between 6,500 and 7,000 feet and topped out at over 12,000 feet. So it has been a problem for the Europeans particularly, but boy, they put on an excellent bike race here, and it's now coming to its climax today. We're still chasing those 14 riders out in front. The gap is holding. There's the peloton now under the control of the boys in black. They are the Cannondale team for Peter Sagan, who is the green jersey rider in the distance there, letting his team do all of the work. Let's move up to the leaders. We've got Thomas Dekker on the front here at the moment, but there is the full list for you. Machado, Pires, Mejias, Jess Anthony, Michael Rogers. As we continue on, Andrew Talansky's having a great couple of days now. Thomas Dekker, we've just seen, Carlson, Kurt Carlson, Jeff Lauder, Josh Edmondson. A couple more for you. We've got Jones, Duarte, Simon Geschke of Germany, Tim Duggan, former US champion, and Pat McCarty. That's the complete compilation of the 14 riders up front, and they're all working well together at the moment here. That was Thiago Machado sitting on the front there for Team Radio Shack. No passengers. This is the peloton here. They're labouring on the very lower slopes of the Devil's Gulch, but it steepens up in the last 3 miles. So as they continue up towards the summit here, they'll top out at 49 miles into today's stage, 66 miles from the finish of the day. All right, well, let's almost bring you up to date now. We're on stage 6 here. Well, yesterday it was stage 5 in Vale, and this was the time trial. It was only 10 miles, but boy, did it make changes. Huge surprise early on. Andrew Talansky, in front of a great crowd in Vale Village, started his journey up the Vale Valley to the summit. Again, it was altitude playing its part. Tyler Wren just heard a whoosh of wind as Andrew Talansky went by him, and at the finishing line, an incredible time, 25 minutes 5 seconds for him, and that was the fastest ever recorded on this course. It should have been enough to win the stage at least. Tommy Danielson, though, he wanted the crowd to get right behind him. He launched now. He knew this was the time. Last time they rode on this course, it was Advantage Danielson. He beat TJ Van Garderen by 18 seconds, and he wanted to repeat that here. For a low halfway, he was going great. He fell back just a little bit when he got to the summit. Last man to start, resplendent in yellow as the new leader after Battle of Beaver Creek. TJ Van Garderen made his play. His rhythm was faultless. As he came up the mountains, he'd gone through in the best midway time of 12 minutes and 31 seconds. He was way ahead of Talansky, but he was slowing down, despite the encouragement of the crowd. Up towards the finishing line, it was touch and go. Talansky thought he'd won it, but he hadn't. He'd lost the race by just 4 seconds to TJ Van Garderen, who had ridden the hardest time trial of his life. It had been worth it. He had increased his lead to 1.5 minutes overall. So that was yesterday, and TJ Van Garderen having a great time in Vale Village. Now back with Andrew Talansky on the right there. That was the man who thought he pulled off the coup yesterday. He finished second in the time trial, and as he slips back in that blue Garmin jersey there. This breakaway, though, perhaps maybe a win today for Andrew. Well, as they continue what is a long ride up Devil's Gulch, the actual official distance of the climb is 3 miles, but these riders continue the long, steady drag out of the Rocky Mountains today, and the breakaway is working very, very well together.
Well, I'll tell you, the red part of the profile there is what we've done, and I'll tell you what, Phil, as far as I'm concerned, that has all been uphill. I make this climb around about 20 miles or 30 kilometers in length.
Yeah.
Once they go through the feeding station, they've still got another 5 kilometers, 3 miles to go to the top, but that's when it starts to get very, very grippy indeed, with a couple of points where the gradient really kicks up to 13%, and that's where I think we might see a move come from Tommy Danielson in the main field.
I don't think Danielson will say goodbye to the final yellow jersey without a fight, even though he himself thinks the race has now been won by TJ Van Garderen. One thing's for sure, today is the last day when he must try something. So as we look down now to the valley here, we're starting the lower slopes of Devil's Gulch. It's quite a long ride to the summit yet. The gap is holding as the riders are working well together. This group of riders up front, here they are. Jeff Lauder is in this breakaway as well, as he continues to. He's just on the front at the moment there, United Healthcare colours. Fabio Duarte is going through the full list for you. Machado, Perez, Mejias, Anthony and Rogers, they all got themselves together. 10 riders actually caught up with the leaders, and it's quite a nice little breakaway they've got going here at the moment. Andrew Talansky having a good second day after his terrific time trial yesterday. And there's the 15 riders. There are in fact 15 riders in this breakaway. Josh Edmondson labouring on. He's been quite a find in the Sky team this week. He's tried on a daily basis in the breakaways to see if he could find something very special. Sky changing the whole tactics this week, Paul, didn't they? Because they lost the young, hopeful winner of this race, Joe Dombrowski, with his nosebleeds in the altitude.
Yeah, that was very sad on the first day. It actually started. He had to go back to the race doctor, and the doctor looked after him, and they put some gauze in his nose to stop the bleeding. He got through the first stage and the second stage, but then after that he continued to have nosebleeds at night. And when he woke up with blood in his mouth, the team doctor said, "Now, out, mate. We need to find out exactly what the problem is," and maybe they issued a statement saying they might even have to cauterize the vein that kept bursting.
Yeah. It wasn't a serious situation, but you certainly couldn't continue to ride in this altitude, because the average daily stage town sits at over 6,500 feet, and on days they were topping 12,000. It's been a big problem, Paul, and for somebody like Steve Cumming today, the English rider on Team BMC, who keeps dropping to the back. As we're in the valleys now, he's suffering from asthma, which hasn't affected him when he's in the high altitude, but I guess the pollen's a bit more down here.
It could very well be the case. He has had a very difficult time. He rode a superb individual time trial though yesterday, Phil, because you know, when he came into that time trial, he was looking at trying to challenge the top positions, and he finished eventually in 4th place, just 1 minute and 4 seconds back. So this is a very strong squad that Team BMC Racing have brought to support their man TJ Van Garderen. 1 kilometre to the feed zone, but the feed zone itself, Phil, is around about, for the peloton, it's around about 5 kilometres to go from the feed zone to the top, so there's still a long way to go. And judging by the fact that a lot of these guys have got their bags alongside them, would indicate they've gone through the feeding zone, and now they're setting up to the final 5 kilometres or 3 miles to the top of this climb.
So getting out the Cliff Bar feed zone, they've probably got some in their bags as well as they continue. This is lower down the slopes here. Our pictures are really getting lost at times inside this canyon, which we're going to climb out, so we'll get better, believe me. But this is the Cannondale Peak team. 2:05, so they're losing a little bit of ground. All the pressure on these riders, no interest from the BMC, the boys in red. They're riding up near the front because they're defending the yellow jersey there. Even that rider in the white jersey is on the same team as the boys in red, because that's Michael Shaw wearing the champion of Switzerland's road racing jersey. So they'll continue to monitor affairs, but for the moment it is going in the favour of the breakaways. Right down the valley, the road still not kicking up like they will as we head up towards the top of Devil's Gulch. We are now 36 miles in, and it's about 11 miles to the top of the climb, so it'll just continue steadily uphill here. Once again, have a look at the 15 names here. These are the riders in the breakaway. Best placed is Machado, 6:21 behind TJ Van Garderen, so he's not going to worry unless this lead gets a little bit further up the road as these riders continue to race steadily up the road. We are hearing, in fact, that Garmin Sharp have lost a rider now because the Scottish rider David Miller has abandoned. Well, Michael Rogers has got himself a couple of teammates up here, Paul, so the 3 Saxo Tinkoff riders might be able to do something special if they can get away over the top of this climb.
Well, Michael Rogers in that orange jersey we keep spotting there, just sitting at the back, number 41. He was the man who was instrumental in laying down the foundations for this breakaway to succeed. So obviously they have a plan.
Cannondale have a plan too, to chase them down. 2 minutes 05. We seem locked in at that just for the moment. And the red jerseys of Team BMC, the team of TJ Van Garderen, also playing the professional game here, allowing one rider up amongst the chase just to keep an eye on things for the moment. This is going very much the way of Van Garderen. He expected a tough day today to come from Garmin Sharp with Tommy Danielson up to third overall. Now we're going to try and reach out with Steve Perino at the moment because he's on the motorbike with the riders. Steve Perino, can you hear Phil?
Yeah, I can hear you this time, Phil. You sound great. And I'm right behind the peloton where Stephen Cummings has been. Of course, that's a little less horsepower for BMC. Now, when I talked to Charlie Vigelius a little bit earlier about what has been going on, all of this chaos and whatnot, precisely what he was hoping to see today to give Tom Danielson any chance at putting a dent into TJ Van Garderen today. Interesting comment he made when I said, what did you think of the fact that the group did not hold up for Van Garderen when he called for a P break? He said, you know, there's a difference between talent and authority, and maybe TJ at age 25 doesn't have the authority yet to stop the group.
Well,
interesting thoughts.
Indeed. Now listen, Steve, you can still hear me. We've heard the retirement has come through of the Scottish rider on Garmin Sharp, and that's Charlie Wagalis's team, of David Miller. Have you seen him stop?
You know, I have not, but let me look into finding out why he had to retire.
That would be very interesting because really I thought David Miller was riding extremely well in support of Tom Danielson. We'll find out more on that one. There's a lot of blue jerseys down there. I find it quite hard to believe that David Miller has a banner, but it has been announced by the race that he was seen to stop on the side of the road looking for a car. Well, there's the twists and turns as we get deep into Devil's Gulch at the moment. We're still quite a long way up here today. What a beautiful stretch of Colorado this is. But then, hey, all of Colorado is such a beautiful state. See you in a moment. As we look down on the twists and turns here now, this is the group heading up towards the top of Devil's Gulch here. Nobody is attacked as the Flanders flag of Belgium is being waved on the left-hand side of the last climb in the USA Pro Challenge this year, Devil's Gulch itself. Nobody worried about this. This, as far as they're concerned, is a stepping stone to be covered because the man who has won the Nissan King of the Mountains title is Matt Cook. He didn't need the points available here. There were only 10. Well, we're over the top. Let's go and try and hold pictures a little bit lower down. The gap is being held at 1:45 just now. And the boys in the black colours of Cannondale here are just controlling the pace now, trying not to draw their green jersey sprinter, Peter Sagan, into difficulty. And behind the lady here, you might just see that green jersey popping in and out behind the rider in red. That is Sagan, and he will be very happy. Now, let's go back to Steve Perino. You've got some news for me, Steve.
Yeah, I ask and you shall receive, Phil. I went back and talked to the Garmin folks, and they said that David Miller suffering from saddle sores, so he had to pull out in the feed zone. Took me a while to get to them because they were side by side with Axel Merckx and Bontrager. I don't know what they were saying, but I do know that Bontrager has Lawson Craddock just a minute down in the white jersey category, so maybe a little collusion going on. What do you think?
No, that would never happen in professional cycling, Steve, but I'm very grateful to the information you have given me on David Miller because he has been riding so well, the Scots rider, and it sounds like he's suffering from saddle sores. So bad luck for David, just 1 day short of getting to Denver as well. That's really sad, and he's on the same team, a valuable teammate of Tommy Danielson. Just like the teammates here setting the pace at the front now. They've lost one rider, Fabio Sabatini, Cannondale, as the peloton now come up towards the summit of the climb. Watch the clock. Well, the clock counts as they come up towards the summit. Good pace-making, nice controlled riding. It's not the end of the climbs. Officially it is, but the rides will tell you in a few minutes they go up a little bit further before they start the drop off the Rockies, heading down towards Fort Collins.
Well, the gap as we come up to the top and the line of the Nissan King of the Mountains, Phil, it's just around 2 minutes as they go over the top there. So they've got it locked in. I have to say, Team Cannondale have done an excellent job of controlling the pace. They didn't need to chase at this point. They just needed to make sure that they limited the gap that the main group of attackers were putting into them.
This is the breakaway. David Miller, by the way, Paul, saddle sore's the problem, and he couldn't stand the pain anymore, and he did withdraw.
Well, Pat McCarty, number 115, he's the rider just sitting at the back now. Once we get over the next climb, which is not categorized, once we've gone through Estes Park, I think we'll start to see a number of teams a lot keener on doing the pacemaking at the front to pull back that large group of riders who are now just around about 2 minutes ahead of the race.
Estes Park used to be a famous place for a 5-day stage race in the seasons gone by. As we now look to flatter roads here, just one more little kink before the summit. We go through the sprint first at Estes Park. No prizes for the little lump on your contour there. Then we're plunging down a bit more to sea level, although that sea level in this part of the world is around 5,000 feet.
There's the yellow jersey, Smashburger yellow jersey, firmly on the shoulders, I think, of TJ Van Garderen, with an advantage of 1.5 minutes over his own teammate Matthias Frank, and 1:42 back to Tom Danielson. I was surprised not to see any move coming from Danielson. Maybe he'll have a little dig when we come to this final incline. That's the real only chance that he's got on this final incline once we've gone across the plateau here, which really is a magnificent backdrop.
Yes, good wide green ranching land here as they roller coast the way towards Fort Collins now. So two very good riders abandoning the race today, in Steve Cummings and in David Miller, and leaving behind 112 riders left in the race. It's Ian Boswell there in the black, rummaging around his pockets. This is Tom Danielson here. Peter Sagan just popping into our picture there, concentrating. He's not in the terrain he really loves, which are these roads, and he's running now quite high up before. One more little climb to come, and then he'd get to feel a little bit more relaxed. His teammates have dropped behind him now. Might be a change of tactics here at the front, as Team BMC seem to be a lot more active at the moment. Greg Van Avermaet also in our picture, and Matthias Frank as well. So the race goes on. Tactics might change a little now as we head to Fort Collins. Well, this is Andrew Talansky here, part of this front group of 14 riders, 15 riders. He's 40th overall after his time trial yesterday. More importantly, he was 10th in the Tour de France in July. He's coming back up to the riders. This was moments ago. Talansky's hand up, a flat front tyre. He's telling the neutral service, it's all right, my team car is just behind me. He's waiting for it to arrive. There it is. A little bit of a slow exit from the car for the mechanic, but once he was out there, he did a terrific bike change. Here he comes. At least the front wheels should be quick as they drop it in. As this is cycling's equivalent to the F1 pit stop. And there he is, back in the convoy. Once you're in the convoy, you can dodge in and out the cars, rapidly rejoining. Now these are live pictures, so he's rejoining the group up ahead, which is working very hard and, quite frankly, not going very far ahead of the main field today. They're not giving them any big lead at all. And now we're over the top of the last climb, but not the top of the last climb without points. There's the gap coming from the bunch. It's a circle of 15, which means 15 riders in a bunch, and the gap is 2 minutes. At least I think that's what he said. I've forgotten already. Now this is the peloton we're panning down here. A lot of red jerseys, all of the team of TJ Van Garderen. Further up in this peloton, Ian Boswell has dropped back, and a little bit of a problem here, because this is Josh Edmondson in that lead group. Now that's interesting, because Josh was riding by Talansky, and he saw Talansky stop for his tyre change. Perhaps he wanted one as well. Well, he's a little bit more difficult to do. He's got to get that chain meshing with the gears system. And he's off and running back into the action. He's been a really good rider on Team Sky this week. He's one of the youngsters growing up with the team now. Big future ahead of him. They've sent him up here as a nice little test, and he's come through that test with flying colours this week. So the Rockies again, as the peloton gets itself all together. A little bit of time for food for TJ Van Garderen. It's gone perfectly so far for him today. He hasn't been challenged.
Gone perfect for him and his team, and being very sensible, just keeping on board as many calories as possible. Because even though the race doesn't finish till tomorrow, you've got to keep the energy levels topped up all the time. You can see how keen now the team Cannondale are, and I think once we get over this final little rise, once we've gone through Estes Park, I think then we'll start to see Team BMC also maybe assisting the Cannondale team, because you know Greg van Avermaet from Team BMC, he's challenged Peter Sagan in the sprints a couple of times, and what a story that would be if he could get them another win after the win of TJ Van Garderen yesterday in the individual time trial.
Well, we'll know towards the end. Devil's Gulch is a little bit too far into the stage, really, for the riders to see it as a springboard to the finish. These 15 riders would like to see that gap move a little bit. 2 minutes, they've nibbled a few seconds further ahead, but it's not enough, and the peloton know it, because there are other teams here with sprinters, and they'll wait to see how these boys do, and if they get close, they'll start to give them a hand.
Well, the official gap coming over the race radio now, Phil, is actually 1 minute and 45 seconds. So they're starting to put the pressure on in this main field, looking to try and pull in their prey.
Cannondale, and then behind Cannondale, the boys in black are the boys in red, the teammates of TJ Van Garderen, the race leader. This is Talansky wearing number 7. Now, this was the man that really felt very sorry for him at the end in the time trial at Vale. This is a great time trial. Let's have another look at it here. He shot out the start house in Vale. Big effort for the man that wanted to impress to the crowd. He comes from Miami, not used to the altitude of Colorado, but he was today riding the ride of his life, yesterday rather, as he went up past Tyler Wren. He continued on, setting the marker all the way. TJ Van Garderen was still to start at this stage, and then at the top, an incredible effort, fastest ride ever seen on this course, 25 minutes and 5 seconds, and it really did look as though it was going to survive the passage of time. But at the end of it all, he lost by 4 seconds. Our new Belgium athlete profile, as Andrew Talansky here. He's only 24 years age, incredible future. 7th in last year's Tour of Spain, 10th in his first crack at the Tour de France this year. We're going to be seeing Andrew Talansky for many years to come. He was very disappointed when Van Garderen tripped on the line. 4 seconds was the difference at the end of the day. And at one stage, Van Garderen was 33 seconds quicker than Talansky. He almost lost out. Heading up towards Estes Park, it's our Cliff Bar sprint point, and again the riders for the green jersey competition have all been playing subservient roles to Peter Sagan. Nobody here is going to take that jersey off his shoulders. There is 5 points for the first rider over, but I don't think it's going to make any difference. There are of course prizes as well. So as we watch the riders approach into Estes Park, let's go back to Steve Perino. Steve.
Well, Phil, I'm just behind the peloton here, about to come up, and interesting conversation I had this morning with Cannondale Stefano Zanata about Peter Sagan. And of course, anytime you put him in a sprint in this place, he's going to win. But they said he will not kill his team today in order to put Sagan in position because of 2 things. One, they're really looking at tomorrow. That's obviously a sprint stage. But 2, he's got a team full of people that have been working for other people like Sagan all season long. We're coming to the end of the season. He said maybe today is a day where we let some of those guys off the leash. If it gets too difficult to get Sagan over the hill, we might look to some individuals to try and get their own fortune today.
Well, that is extremely interesting because there are riders like Damiano Caruso on the Cannondale team who quite likely could steal a stage. We're now in Estes Park. Well, there he is, the yellow jersey, just looking at the people cheering him, no doubt hearing his name as well. TJ Van Garderen is that much closer now to Fort Collins. The day is going well. Back with the leaders here as they continue, but the gap is slowly being closed down. They've just left Estes Park here. Very shortly they'll be over the hills and they'll be racing down to lower altitude. There's all the names for you in the breakaway. None of these names affecting the destiny of the yellow jersey. The timings on the right is what they've lost over the 5.5 days of racing thus far in the USA Pro Challenge. Is Peter Sagan. Now he's looking for a possible double this weekend if things go well for him. He's already won 2 stages, stages 1 and stage 3, and heading now to try and consolidate his lead in that Cliff Bar green points jersey. A jersey he's won in the Tour de France on 2 occasions as well, including this year, of course. He's looking pretty cool, calm and collected. He rides on the wheel, a good wheel to follow, Peter, because this is Tommy Danielson on Team Garmin Sharp. He moved up yesterday after the time trial to 3rd place overall. He would have liked it to have been first, but he wasn't quite up to the speed of Van Garderen. Well, there's no clues as to what Tommy Daniel's thinking there, Paul, but I would think he's thinking he's nothing he can do now because the hills are going behind them.
And there are 2 very strong teams here doing most of this pace making. They're setting the pace on the front end of the peloton, and it's going to be very difficult now, I think, for Tommy Danielson to escape. He's the rider just sitting behind that armada of red and black jerseys, and in the blue. Starts in 3rd place in the overall standings at the start of the day. He did a great ride to move up into 3rd yesterday, but I think that's probably about the best that he can expect out of a stage like this. Used to call him the Durango Kid because he used to live in Durango, Colorado, before actually moving across to move to Boulder, like many of the other professional bike riders. In fact, a lot of the riders from Garmin Sharp actually spend their winter season around Colorado, and most of the summer months they spend in Girona in Spain.
Well, Colorado is a state made for cycle racing, but that altitude is a problem for those riders who don't come out and acclimatise themselves. Jens Voigt, the irrepressible Jens Voigt, has told us that, and he reckons if you don't come out here early, you haven't got a chance. Well, he's riding, as always, very well. We're nearly at the highest point of the stage today. Not of the course, though. We were over 12,000 feet the other day, and Richie Porte has decided to have a little go, and look who he's taking with him, Lachlan Morton.
This is a dangerous move because Lachlan Morton, Phil, is way up in the overall standings, and Richie Porte looking for a bit of individual glory. This could put a bit of pressure onto Team BMC.
Well, Lachlan Morton there is wearing the Best Young Rider jersey. He's 5th overall in the race, but that is going to worry them if they keep it up. He's 2:34 off the yellow jersey there. And that is Lachlan Morton, and this I would call a very cheeky move at this stage of the race, and trying to labour up to him is none other than Matthias Frank.
Yep, good move by Matthias Frank. He is in 2nd place in the overall standings. He will not collaborate in a move like this because he knows it puts a little bit of danger onto his own teammate TJ Van Garderen, but what great tactics for Team BMC. They got 1st and 2nd overall. We could see a little bit of a change here on these final uphill inclines of this year's USA Pro Challenge.
They clearly, Paul, had studied that contour map because this is the little part of the climb which is not categorized in the mountains competition. And Lachlan Morton here, who got his yellow jersey with fine attacking riding in the mountains, going into Breckenridge on day 2. And now he's trying to move away with the rider who sits in 2nd place overall.
Yeah, but Phil, you talk about a cheeky little move. Just coming along behind him is the green jersey of Peter Sagan. Sagan is a man who knows how to race bicycles. He really does enjoy it. He's just peeping around the back there. You can just about see him coming across.
I've got him. He's just tacking on. Is this Acevedo also getting in on the act in number 3rd wheel here? Because this is an attack of the Titans if this is the case. And well, what does TJ Van Garderen do? Because his own teammate in 2nd overall, Matthias Frank, in the all red and black jersey, is right there.
So George Bennett come across there for Team Radio Shack. Peter Sagan, what a man, what a competitor. We talk about this guy as being a sprinter, but he's an all-rounder. He can do almost anything, including pull a wheelie at the bottom of the Mont Ventoux in the Tour de France.
Well, George Bennett, who's got in this move, he's the other young rider in that competition, so he's gone because Lachlan Morton has gone. They're vying for that blue and white jersey as best young rider in this year's race.
Phil, you have to bear in mind and put into a bit of perspective that from the top of this final incline, there's still about 55 miles to go to the finish. And when you know how strong Team BMC are, you know how they can organise the chase behind, and they don't have to react now. In fact, TJ Van Garderen must remain calm and wait till he gets to the top of this climb, keep as many teammates alongside him as possible, and then just close down the gap later on.
Well, this is the list of riders for you. Matthias Frank 2nd overall in the race. Lachlan Morton 5th overall in the race. George Bennett, but it's all over. There had to be a reaction to that, and he's come up very quickly. TJ Van Garderen, you can see on the left side then his yellow jersey. Frank went with the move but didn't assist with the attack.
He wouldn't do that. He's a teammate. He wants to protect the position. How about this? Greg van Avermaet is the man coming to the front now. He just wants to show that Team BMC are not on the back foot. They're not in any difficulty at all, and they will dictate the pace up towards the top of this final climb. They waited to see how it would develop. Van Avermaet is using a little bit of energy here when he could have actually sat in the main field, Phil, and thought about trying to get himself the stage victory. The individual stage victory is important to a rider like Peter Sagan, but for Team BMC, they will leave every other title behind them. They just want one title tomorrow when they go into Denver, and that is of the overall win in this race for TJ van Garderen.
Well, there's Van Avermaet. He's a Belgian sprinter, and he has won 3 times with his sprint this year, 4 wins in all, because he also won the overall classification of the Tour of Wallonie, which is the region of Belgium, the Walloon region, where French is the language.
Just look where TJ van Garderen sitting now, right on the wheel of Tommy Danielson in front of him. He is his closest, probably his main challenger, because Matthias Frank, his own teammate, is not going to challenge him on this climb. But he knows TJ van Garderen, if there's a move comes now from Tom Danielson, he will go with it.
We're right up at the top now of Devil's Gulch, and we've kicked through Estes Park, and we're climbing again, the last little uphill. Back up briefly with the leaders here now as they continue to try and keep clear. It's Pat McCarty on the Bissell team, followed by Jeff Lauder. We've got Josh Edmondson in the all-black strip. Michael Rogers, the 5th rider in line here. They are getting quite a head of speed up here. And because of that flurry, they're just holding on again to 2 minutes. It might all calm down again back there right now. This is Edmondson who's come forward to the front. That's the teammate of this rider, Chris Froome, at the back. Now, what's he doing? He's under pressure again, isn't he?
I think there was a little wry smile on his face there, Phil. He actually rode hard in the individual time trial yesterday, but he did say to me before the start of that time trial that he was very happy to have come here to Colorado. He felt he needed a tough race like this. He, in fact, knows that the race here at altitude will pay benefits later on in the season. And after a series of very difficult exhibition races all the way around Europe, this has got him much more serious. And let's not forget, he is, after all, the man who rode an aggressive Tour de France. I mean, what a way to win on the top of Mont Ventoux, one of the most renowned climbs in the whole of France when it comes to the Tour de France, and finishing it off with a great win in the individual time trial and celebrating it all the way down on the Champs-Élysées, just as nighttime was starting to fall.
Yeah, but he came here as a very faithful helper to Joe Dombrowski, and to poor old Joe had a nosebleed on day 1 of this race, and eventually was told he had to retire from the race because it happened again one evening when he was in the hotel. So that's something he'll no doubt sort out. It was an altitude problem. But quite a few of these riders have had altitude problems since we started this race from Aspen on Monday. Michael Rogers, though, at the back of the leading group at the moment, has been very active today. He was determined to get into this move.
Well, he went with the first one, the second one, and the third one before finally the 4th attack of the day started to form this leading group of riders off the front end of the main field. But let's put it back. 120, that's come down pretty dramatically. They obviously have put some serious pressure in this main field. And in fact, Phil, is because of that acceleration coming from Lachlan Morton.
We're just looking here now. We're riding right up at the height of the day's course, and a lovely little lake there. I'm sure the trout fishing is excellent. But Team BMC, the teammates of TJ van Garderen, decided the best way to stop these guys attacking TJ is to get all of his team on the front, lift the pace so they can't.
That little acceleration, though, has caused severe damage in this peloton. If you just look a little bit further down the road, you can see lots and lots of groups of riders scrambling and scuttling to try and get back into contact. But this is the way to control a race. Put 3 or 4 teammates on the front, set a very hard tempo, and that discourages riders from trying to go out on the attack.
Well, Van Garderen didn't look under pressure at all when we caught sight of him. Our pictures still not quite behaving themselves, but we're still seeing the images. That's what's important. The peloton stretching the elastic just a little bit, but life should get a little bit easier for them very shortly now as we start to head downhill.
Well, the riders from BMC now, Phil, we're starting to get into their minds the thought that we've only got 56 miles left of today's stage to control this race. We will get some help coming from Team Cannondale because they've got a fantastic sprinter in the form of Peter Sagan. So there's going to be 2 teams now who will try and keep the pace nice and high. So I think that gap to the leading group of riders now will start to tumble quite dramatically.
It already has. 1 minute 20 from 2 minutes. But even so, this is the only thing that's out of favour with that breakaway. Yet there are some good riders up there with a lot of speed in those legs, despite the fact that No breakaway as such has succeeded on the roads, although we've had riders finishing alone with the show of strength as they run over the final hills into the finishing line. But the long breakaways haven't really succeeded this week at all. And we don't expect breakaways to succeed tomorrow, but you never know. It's a great course in Denver tomorrow, and we can expect thousands upon thousands of people down in the center of Denver tomorrow for the big finish. We've seen them there in the past.
It's Ben King now coming to the front from New Hampshire. He's getting into a very low tuck position to pick up the speed to close to 50 miles an hour on this descent. He was unceremoniously eliminated from the Tour de France very early on last year, which I felt was a little bit unfortunate. You know, sometimes I think the referees need to ride a couple of stages of the Tour de France themselves before they start to apply the rules. He was eliminated for a couple of seconds, having been dropped early on. In fact, I think it was just about 6 or 7 seconds after having ridden almost the whole stage on his own with an injured shoulder.
Yep, and it was also the fastest team time trial that day ever recorded in the history of the Tour de France. It was the 4th day when we were based in Nice. A little bit of a break, so I'll show you the finishing line now. The women's race is finished. I've got no information as to who won it, but it was quite an active race, I must say. Now we're getting ready for the arrival of the men. It'll be a little time before they all come downtown Fort Collins. This is a beautiful part of the city here. The old restaurants and coffee shops, a really good place to be. And of course, let's not forget the pavement artists.
Well, definitely. And this might be the time for me to remind you, Phil, that the main street here in Fort Collins was shown to Walt Disney many years ago, and it was the inspiration for him to make Main Street USA, which you can find in nearly every Disneyland park around the world, except Japan for some unknown reason.
Oh, that's very interesting. This is the old town square here. And we arrived in town last night, so we had a chance to have a little look around before. The riders themselves, they stayed in Vale yesterday, which is about 2.5 hours away from the start line of Loveland today. But Loveland is only 15 minutes drive away from the finish line. So there they are. That's all getting ready. They have lots of festivities here. They also have a very good exhibition and fun and games. They're down there in the start area, and of course the town is shut down for the day. Everybody has a real chance to enjoy the streets without the motor car. Cannondale now getting back into control. They've decided they're going to move up and continue to assist Team BMC on the pursuit. 1 minute 25. It's nudged out just a little bit again by 5 seconds, but what it tells me is they have control of that breakaway. It's still plenty of miles to go. They're heading up to the 61-mile point of the race now, so there's still time to bring that group back before we get into the finishing line down in Fort Collins, and then we're going to be treated possibly to a mass charge the line. Well, let's hope like it wasn't the one into Steamboat Springs the other day, because they had a nasty crash, and 4 riders involved in that crash about a mile out from the finish were unable to start the race next day. That's not what we like to see, of course. So the field now, this is the breakaway again. And as they continue, the FedEx Cup playoffs continue as well as the second leg goes through Boston. Who will survive and advance? The Deutsche Bank Championship begins Friday on Golf Channel and continues next Sunday on NBC. The leaders are still clear. The way it's been now for a long way. They've come over the top of Devil's Gulch. It's a generally downhill ride now as they're bound for Fort Collins, but the lead is only 125. Well, we have a real lineup of sport tomorrow on both NBCSN and NBC itself. The Barclays Premier League Soccer, well, the London club Tottenham looking for a place in the Champions League. They're up against the Welsh champions there, Swansea City. That should be a great game. Also the USA Pro Challenge. 2 p.m. here on NBCSN and on NBC, 4 p.m. on NBC tomorrow. Plenty of other sport as well. Chip Ganassi in action as well there. So we're back with the riders here in the main field all together. The gap has stretched just marginally to 1.5 minutes again. So I think they keep testing themselves to see that they're not running too far ahead. 90 seconds, Paul, at the moment, and they have a little run at them, get it down to 1 minute 20, then they ease off again. So they know they can come and pick them off when they want to, I think.
It's going to be a long, hard chase to pull it all back together, because we're still looking at quite a long way to go to the finish line. It's about 80 kilometers. TJ Van Garderen, he just keeps looking at his watch there to check out how many kilometers have gone by. Sits there calmly knowing that he's surrounded by a very strong squad. They came here with a mission, Team BMC, and that's why they brought such a strong team alongside them with only one goal. It wasn't a question of thinking about winning stage victories. It was to try and win this race overall.
Well, these riders won't be dreaming yet of holding off this main field, that's for sure. Technically, we're generally dropping away from the dizzy heights now as we sort of say goodbye to the Rocky Mountains, heading into Fort Collins. And the gentle undulations will take us through to the finishing line. There's Christian van der Velde. He was going into the final weekend looking for a big result in the time trial last year, which he got and became the winner overall of this event. This is last race in America as he runs out into retirement this year. He will race again with the team in Europe, but this is his final race on US roads. Well, there we are, down at the finishing line, and that's where we should be able to pick up Steve Schlanger. Steve, Phil here, can you hear us?
Absolutely, Phil. We are here at the finish, and it sets up for a perfect sprint if it comes down to that late in the stage. However, speaking with Team Sky earlier this morning before the start, and they told me that they're going to try to make this race as aggressive as possible. They got into the break, and what they're then going to try to do later on is try to make some initial attacks when the road starts to get rolly towards the finish, try to break up the race, have more guys come forward because they don't have a sprinter in this race. They haven't won a stage. The only way they can do that is to drop the sprinters on the run in here and hope to steal one from the fastest men in the bunch.
And from what I see down there, Steve, it is a sprinter's delight if they can get it right, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's flat, it's wide, it's made for a sprint. So it's just a matter of what happens because it's such a big breakaway today. Phil, as you know, this is one of those days where it's just too tough to call to see exactly what's going to happen tactically late, right?
Yeah, you're right. It is a strange day simply because TJ Van Garden's built a big winning lead. Danielson and his boys have got to attack, but they've lost Dave Miller. Did you know about that, Steve, that Dave Miller's abandoned out on the course?
Yeah, I did, and it really complicates things because then you have to make those decisions out on the road, things you didn't talk about in the team meeting. So it depends on who has the legs coming off a very difficult time trial tomorrow because, you know, it's one of those deals where guys went so deep in that time trial that everybody might have a little different form today, so you just don't know who's going to have those legs when it comes down to the end.
Thanks very much, Steve. Well, we're looking at BMC throwing in men amongst the Cannondale front runners for Peter Sagan. They're going pretty quickly right now. Now, we've seen the last of the high spots, Paul, but as we're seeing the riders now race away from the Devil's Gulch climb, the terrain gets very interesting. It's not flats going into Fort Collins. It's just nice and rolling. Plenty of opportunity to push on again.
I think there's a great number of occasions to try and get away from the main field, but when you look at the main field stretched out like that, you know there's a lot of pressure coming on from Team Cannondale, and you can see them with the lime green jerseys. They'll be very happy and relieved, I think, Phil, to know that they're getting some assistance every now and again from Team BMC. I have a feeling this breakaway will not survive today. If it hadn't been Peter Sagan in that main group behind, you may well have seen that the breakaway had survived on a day like this, but his team have got so much confidence in his ability to finish it off.
Here's the leaders for you once again. There's plenty of them, but you can see the time gaps on the right. That's what they've lost to TJ Van Garderen over 6 days of racing, or 5 days really. We haven't got to the end of the 6th yet. Now we're running alongside a river here, Paul. I'm going to have a guess. Is this the Cache la Poudre River?
I think it is the Cache Poudre River, yes, and that's where it comes right the way down into the valley, and it was on the banks of this valley that we actually had Camp Collins, and that was Camp Collins was established in 1874 as a military outpost here, but it got washed away by floods, and that's why they moved to a little bit further down the river to establish Fort Collins.
Yes, I think the colonel of Fort Laramie was the man that gave the permission for them to transfer the fort. All these fames, as far as I was concerned as a child, were the great Western names that we used to watch on the films. And here we are now in the middle of the heart of Colorado, this historic state here, with a European sport of bike racing ripping through the canyon, and we're looking at Cannondale. It's an American-based team, but it has many nationalities on it, from Slovakia, Italian, Japanese, and of course American as well. They're closing the gap, or are they? They're certainly not allowing this breakaway to go away at all. They've got 4 men on the front, and if they use all their energy up in the chase, Who is going to lead out Peter Sagan for the sprint?
Well, I think over the last couple of victories he's had, he's managed to freelance a little bit on the running towards the end. He knows how to look after himself. He's such a versatile professional bike rider, and he will use other teams if it comes down to the fact that his team have exhausted themselves at pulling this all back together.
15 leaders, it's a big group. 15 riders, it will always be considered a dangerous group because so many chances of breaking clear here. Number 13 in the black going off to the right is Josh Edmondson. This is Cannondale on the front trying to keep them limited, but Sky themselves have said they want to win a stage of this race. It's the biggest team in the world. They've won the Tour de France for the last 2 years, but they have done nothing here this week, and that's not what they like.
Well, the kind of team they brought was a team for the mountain stages, so this is not necessarily the stage where they would have much to shout about. And in fact, they really were unfortunately losing Joe Dombrowski because
that was the problem.
Despite the medical problem he had on the first day when he suffered a really nasty nosebleed in the race, he still managed to finish high in the overall standing on the first 2 days. And I think that completely put them into disarray because Froome, obviously alongside Richie Porte, they came here to kick-start themselves for the latter part of the season.
Pat McCartney there would like a drink. He's waving his little water bottle in the air so they can see it behind. They carry all these drinks in a big box of ice so that they can keep the drinks cold, and then that led to another problem. Talking of the Sky situation, Paul, on the Tour de France, that box spilled all the water over the electronics of the car, didn't it?
Well, that was a big problem. That was on the day up to the Alpe d'Huez for Chris Froome, and he went into a little bit of a glycogen debt or glucose debt on that occasion because the water from the cool box got into the electrics of their very smart Jaguar car, I'd have to say, on that occasion, and it blew all the fuses, and they just had to wait at the side of the road for the second team car to come up alongside them before they catch up with the main field and hand out drinks and food to Richie Porte, who then passed them on to Chris Froome. But the judges didn't like that, and they gave him a very big time penalty.
They did indeed.
Probably a very expensive drink as well, because they got a monetary fine too.
Yep, that's what happens in the Tour. With time and money, it costs them, but there's nothing they could have done about it anyway. This is the main field here, which continue under the control as it has been for much of the way. Team Cannondale trying to keep this race in contact with the front runners in the hope that Peter Sagan can win in the end. And Sagan's lost his favourite lead-out man who crashed on the road into Steamboat Springs on the third day, Fabio Sabatini, the Italian. Quite a nasty shoulder injury when he went down. He went to a hospital and is going to have to undergo a little bit of rehabilitation there.
Yep, it's going to be a long, hard chase now, but I look at them every time I see the front of the main field, Phil, there seems to be an awful lot of urgency. Whereas when we go back to the leading group of riders, there doesn't quite seem to be the organisation there was over the first few flat kilometres before they started the climbs.
Well, we started out with an average speed for the first half hour of 36 miles an hour for the riders, and nobody could get off the fronts. Little groups, and they got caught. Ted King is the man doing all of the work from New Hampshire in the USA right now for Cannondale. And then the speed has dropped a little bit because of the climbs, but we're still averaging, Paul, 26 miles an hour today for the race, and that is very quick indeed. And it's just about second best time of the day on our schedule list, so they're going pretty well.
Very rapidly. Mick Rogers, the man at the back of this group in the orange jersey, of the most courageous rider in the race, and that was 2 days ago before the individual time trial in Vale, and that was after a long escapade of his. He was the man pretty much instrumental in establishing the breakaway. Now all he's hoping is that it will survive on the run into Fort Collins, because they've got 3 riders, Team Saxo Tinkoff, in that leading group. But that doesn't mean that Team Cannondale, who are currently sitting on the front of the peloton, dragging them along at high speed, are going to lay down arms.
TJ Van Garderen taking an advantage over his teammate of 1:30 and over his nearest rival Tommy Danielson of 1:42 if it stays that way for the lineup in the finishing road in Denver tomorrow. Now this race has never been won by more than 21 seconds, and the man that lost it by 21 seconds last year was TJ Van Garderen to Christian van der Velde.
Well, he came here to put in a dominant performance. I think he was smarting after his performance in the Tour de France this year. Having come off a 5th place finish last year and the best young rider to boot, he felt that he was going to consolidate his position as a top international stage race rider. But he just could not understand what went wrong during the Tour de France. He said his output readings, his heart monitor readings, everything said that he was in good form. But when it came to translating that to a performance on the road, it just didn't work. But it certainly has worked here in Colorado.
I'm just wondering, every time we catch a glimpse as we go back down to the finishing area here, our pictures are being a little bit naughty with us today, but we'll keep with them when we can get there. Always at the back of that breakaway, we catch Michael Rogers. I'm just wondering what his tactics are right now. Here we are, swinging back. Pictures are back with us now. The race referees there were showing a whiteboard to the riders, giving them time gap. They will also go forward and show the same time to the riders at the front. Well, while we get on with our job out in the mountains, Steve Schlanger, you're getting on with your job on the finishing line. What have you got, man?
Well, Phil, talking about TJ Van Garderen, who has a substantial lead coming into the second to last day here, he said before this race began that outside of the Tour de France this year, this was his second priority, even beyond winning the Amgen Tour of California, which was his first substantial victory of his career. He said because he's from Colorado, because he's ridden these roads, it was so important that he changed his training, spent a lot more time at altitude, he moved to Aspen. All of this was to peak and to do well here in August for this race. And, well, of course, he moved to Aspen because he wanted to be closer to the in-laws as well. But this is a big deal for him leading this race coming into the final weekend.
Yes, absolutely right. And I think you're also right, Steve. He wanted to go to Aspen, so he's got permanent babysitters in situ when he goes out on his race.
Hey, Phil,
yes, go on.
For someone who has 2 kids, being close to family, having those built-in babysitters, I tell you, you can't have that enough.
Man, it's gold dust, isn't it? Yeah.
You bet.
Thanks, Steve. Well, yes, he moved to Aspen, but he's been a Colorado man before. He's lived in Boulder as well. He commutes, of course, over to his European base as well. Just watching here, Rowan Dennis, one of the real up-and-coming youngsters here from Australia. And I've seen Rowan develop as a young junior world champion over there as well. And now he's on the Garmin Sharp team, and now he's learning what it's like to be a helper. Get the water, put it down your racing jersey, go and find your team leader, Tommy Jansen, and give him a drink. He'll take a drink, we'll take a break.
Coming up next, it's summer at Saratoga. Today's feature race is the Travers, featuring Kentucky Derby winner Orb, Belmont Stakes winner Palace Malice, and the favorite Verrazano. That's next, summer at Saratoga on NBC.
Welcome back as we're looking here at the riders in the main field, and straight on the back of this, stay tuned for the summer of Saratoga and enjoy that. At the moment we're looking at the USA Pro Cycling Challenge, heading now towards the finish in Fort Collins. The USA Pro Cycling Challenge on NBC is brought to you by Colorado State University, 140 years of world-class research and academics. By Nissan, innovation that excites. By Cliff Bar. And by Team Novo Nordisk, changing diabetes. Still no change at the front of the pacemakers here. We've got those 15 riders hanging on to a 1-minute 50-second lead. Here they are at the front. Andrew Talansky setting the pace. The champion of Switzerland at the back here, Michael Sharp. He's taking on more drinks. These bottles weigh quite a bit when they're full of water, and he's taking them up to his team BMC, the same team of race leader TJ Van Garderen. That's his job today, get TJ to the finish safe and sound and hydrated. Peloton continuing, it's a long way down, and then we get to just a whole series of gentle undulations, good attacking roads as we'll get into the area of Fort Collins. And the riders not that far away very shortly as to where they started this morning, as they've done their loop now, and they'll change course in direction of Fort Collins.
Yes, so once they get to the small town of Little Dam, they'll take a left-hand turn before actually dropping into Loveland, head up to Masonville and Horsetooth Reservoir as they move in a northerly direction to get up to the finish line here in Fort Collins.
Perfect breakaway as far as TJ Van Garderen's concerned, because nobody affects him in the overall lead in this breakaway. They've only given them a 1-minute 50 advantage at the moment, so they are minutes behind him overall, and it's up to the others to attack. So he's riding in a perfect position right now. I couldn't think of a better scenario for him.
No, I agree, Phil. It's ideal. The team have done a great job, but he actually hasn't had to dispense that much energy until he came to the real critical part of this race. Of course, the ascent up to Beaver Creek, where the team put him into the right position at the start of the climb. He defended all the way up, looked very comfortable in the response to all the attacks that came from Tom Danielson, and then he rode a magnificent individual time trial to, as you say, open up the widest gap we've had in the US Pro Challenge over the years. And he has to feel comfortable with a buffer like that.
The white jersey there of Michael Shaw, we saw him picking up bottles at the back. Now he's made it to the front. Look, and it's distribution time to the riders in red, the workers who are showing the pace making there. There's the bottle distribution. Oh, wouldn't it be awful if TJ said, didn't want this flavour, go back and get another one.
Well, then it would be his turn to go back to the bar, and as they say in Australia, it would be his shout.
So, in what is an incredible day's sport on NBC and NBCSN, watch out for this one tomorrow on NBCSN. We'll be on the Spa racing circuit for the F1 Belgian Grand Prix. Note the time, 7:30 a.m. That's Eastern time. The big motors will be in action. The big motors are in action right now in the form of bicycle riders here as they head towards Fort Collins. Well, take my hats off to Cannondale. They're only using 2 men now, and just at the back of the race, I think, Paul, I've just seen there he is. Matt Cook is at the back now. He's now taking bottles. He is the winner of the Nissan King of the Mountains, and that was settled the day before yesterday. He's becoming a real bike rider this week. Well, no, that's a bad thing to say. He's always been a real bike rider, but he's winning his biggest prize.
Yeah, well, he's really much got the King of the Mountains sewn uphill. 46 points to Matthias Frank's 30. There are no more categorized climbs on the horizon, so all he's got to do is make sure he stays upright when we get into the streets of Denver tomorrow. And what a great story for a guy who in the first part of this season didn't have a contract and had to pay for himself to race until he got picked up in the month of July, just over 3 weeks before this race, and he was supposed to help his teammate Javier Acevedo to win the King of the Mountains here. Well, Acevedo, job done for him. He won that big stage up into Beaver Creek, but Matt Cook is going to run out, I hope as long as there's no accidents, as the winner of that competition. What a story.
Absolutely, and he's one of the nicest guys in the peloton, I have to say that, because talking with the people who handle all the protocol, that's when he goes up for his leader's jersey each night. He says he comes in full of smiles, saying, I can't believe it, I'm here again. And he says please and thank you to them. That's a real nice man. So back with the peloton here at the moment, and I think you've heard our little tour story there about Matt Cook, Steve, and I think you can tell us something else, can't you, Steve? Or can he, Steve?
Just wait up.
I'm not sure he's hearing me at the moment. So,
well, Phil, I was talking with Matt Cook earlier this week, and you won't find a more genuine guy in the pro peloton. He was so honest with me. He said, you know what? I was at the very bottom. I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I've tried so hard in this sport, but it's given me nothing. And he said he is so grateful, not only to have a job, but to be in a position at this race, this week, where people are just clapping for him, recognizing his effort. Really a truly remarkable story.
Absolutely right, Steve. And although he's in his early 30s now, he still shows us he can climb like an angel. High summer in the Colorados, lots of leaf on those trees. The snow will fall, of course, in a couple of months' time, but right now these are the riders going towards midterm in the World Cycling season, and it looks like TJ Van Garderen is going to be the winner when we get down into Denver tomorrow, because they are not attacking him. I don't think they can attack him.
Well,
right
they
now.
had a little attack on the final incline up to the climb outside of Esther Park there, and that was Lachlan Morton, and it really did put the cat amongst the pigeons on that occasion, because it split the group into about 4 or 5 different groups. But immediately, Matthias Frank of Team BMC, he was very alert. He sat on the wheel of the attacker. He probably felt like a couple of sandbags sitting there, and that's why I think they got pulled back very quickly.
Josh Edmondson of Team Sky, the British rider, just swings off the front as they continue to work together. Simon Geschke doing some work there. So I'm just wondering with Steve Perino, where are you, Steve Perino? Are you behind the breakaway or the peloton at the moment?
I am just behind the breakaway, Phil. Talked to Stefano Zanata of Cannondale, who told me that he wasn't going to push his team too hard, but he seems to be doing just that. The reason if he's got 2 guys up in front and no longer 4, his guys are just getting tired. Doesn't have the same horsepower as the guys from the Tour de France. I guess someone's coming through, so I'll step out of the way.
Thank you very much, Steve. Looking very great indignation there as Team Jelly Belly bring the team car through for a service to the riders in that breakaway. So all action in the bunch now. The men in black leading the charge as it has been. Urgency quite clear there now as it's King on the front. He swings off for his teammate.
I think as we get closer, we're still looking for about 60 kilometers to go to the finish, 42 miles of racing. I think once we get off the valley descent here, we'll get some assistance coming to these two teams who so far during the day have been doing the bulk of the pacemaking, but the breakaway is quite organized.
So we're watching the USA Pro Challenge at the moment. The race is still a little way to go, and there is the finishing line in Fort Collins. Now you can follow the conclusion of this race with us on NBC-SN, but right here on NBC you are moving on to the summer at Saratoga, so you have to make a choice now. Stay with the summer at Saratoga right here on NBC, or switch channels to NBC-SN for the conclusion of stage 6. Welcome to our coverage here in NBC-SN of the 2013 USA Pro Challenge. This is the 6th day of racing of 159s presented by New Belgian Brewing. And if you've been following our fortunes for the last couple of hours on NBC, then you will know there are 15 riders still clear of the field here and still concerned by the chase. Here's all the names for you: Machado, Perez, Mejias, and the very international breakaway this, Michael Rogers of Australia. Andrew Talansky, the hero of the time trial in Vale yesterday, he is there, number 7. Thomas Dekker of Holland, Kirk Carlson, Jeff Lauder, Josh Edmondson, the British rider. All of these riders getting clear very early on after about 45 minutes of high-speed racing. They were shaken out of that big peloton. The question is, though, can they stay away? Because throughout the day, the action has been from largely the riders in the black jerseys for their sprinter, Peter Sagan, and also the boys in red, because there is the man leading the race now as TJ Van Garderen heads towards the finish today in Fort Collins and the grand finish tomorrow in downtown Denver. He leads the overall race situation after that time trial in Vale yesterday. He's been attacked today, but only once, and he was up for it. He neutralized that attack. Let's have a look at the United Healthcare overall standings at the start of the day of racing today. Van Garden's teammate, Frank, is 130 back. Tom Danielson of Garmin Sharp is at 142. The Colombian Acevedo at 210. And the Australian Loveland Morton in 5th place at 2 minutes and 34. It was Morton who launched an attack along with Acevedo. Frank went with them, but they all came together. This is the breakaway here at the front, and that's Michael Rogers gone to the team car. And this is Thomas Dekker taking more drinks on. A pretty hot day today. Hydration is always the worrying situation with these professional cyclists when they're racing over a massive distance. Today it's 115 miles. Let me bring you right up with how it's all gone today from the start. We always start with the Jelly Belly sign in here as Tommy Danielson signs in, now in 3rd place overall in this race after the time trial. Winner of the Tour de France, Chris Froome there, he signed in. The race leader for a 2nd day, TJ Van Garderen, looking forward to tomorrow in Denver. Then the Nissan Drive Electric to the finish, leading the riders away from Loveland as we went out on a small circuit of the town before breaking away from the town. And sure enough, after a whole series of attacks, largely coming from this man, Michael Rogers from Australia, he finally manoeuvred a breakaway of 15 riders, and they got a lead of over 2 minutes. And we went on to the climb of the Devil's Gulch. 15 riders still clear, 2 minutes up the road. And Matt Cook, the winner of that competition, and he wasn't in the leading group, and he wasn't interested either. He's already won the Nissan King of the Mountains. And the intention of this group was to try and get clear of the field. Well, they've got clear of the field, but the gap is about as big as it's been now at 2:05. Tommy Danielson and Christian van der Velde, I think it is there. That was Tom Danielson looking straight into the camera at us. And I think he's probably wondering now, what to do, and I'm not sure he knows what to do now because he's running out of road to do it anyway.
Running out of mileage to do something. His teammate tried to set something up a little earlier on, and that was Lachlan Morton with that little dig after we'd left her behind the big ascent going up to Estes Park. The weather is absolutely ideal, I would say, today, Phil, for Novo Nordisk. 83 degrees Fahrenheit. A slight breeze in the air for the riders at 6 miles an hour. Mostly cloudy, and I think a very nice weekend in store for Colorado.
Number 26 here, Machado in the breakaway. A very, very good Portuguese rider on Team Radio Shack. A lot of... we've spoken to a number of Portuguese people living here, and they've always been wanting to seek out where Machado was, so they go and speak to him in his native language, which I'm sure he's rather pleased about. When you're in a strange country. One win for him this year, which was the National Road Race Championship of Portugal. So the field here, status quo has been like this for well over an hour and a half. But you know, how much energy are the boys in black expending? That's the big thing now, because they'll also be expected to help Peter Sagan if it comes down to the finish in Fort Collins all together and the race for first place. Let's have a look at the principals here with the United Healthcare Leaders Jersey update. TJ Van Garderen is the Smashburger race leader. Cliff Bar sprint leader is Peter Sagan. The Nissan King of the Mountains winner on the right there is Matt Cook. And then we've got the Colorado State University best young rider, Lachlan Morton, and the most courageous rider of 2 days ago, sponsored by First Bank, Michael Rogers, who is in the leading group at the moment. 4 riders up from the back of this group in that orange jersey. We'll run through all the names. There's plenty of them. This is the biggest move we've had all week. 15 riders getting here. There's no doubt which way you've got to turn there. They've got the whole road blocked off with human beings. Just a little bit off the back of the group, struggling perhaps now, Jess Anthony, because as they accelerate out of that corner, he was caught lacking. Well, long straight roads, getting into lovely ranch countryside now. Little undulations. We're coming away from the dizzy heights of the Rocky Mountains. Now, this is where you would expect them to start reeling in at this breakaway.
I think they're now reaching the terrain which is much more suitable for the chaser group here with Team Cannondale, BMC working together. I think we'll now start to see the gap tumble.
Just caught a glimpse of Michael Olsen, the champion of Sweden, sat at the back of the peloton just now. Now, Steve Perino, you do get around, Steve. I think you're now at the back of the main field, aren't you?
In fact, we just arrived, Phil. But I'll tell you what, I don't know if you're noticing the time. It's a little bit wet. When we were coming through the canyon there, a significant tail, a little bit of drizzle, which feels kind of like they're throwing darts at your face. But right now, as we look on the horizon, it seems to have been good weather, but down the road here seems to be, I don't know more than that, but I can tell you that every time the clouds kick up, the wind seems to be pushing from behind. I wonder if that's going to help the breakaway, since obviously the biggest enemy is the wind with only 15 guys.
Thanks, Steve. A little bit of problem hearing you, but we got the gist of that one. And I must say, the weather does change very, very quickly in Colorado. We had huge thunderstorms driving through to Fort Collins yesterday as we left Vail. They were great to watch. I've never seen 2 and 3 rainbows all forming at the same time. And the mountains look very, very savage indeed. But let's hope the rain doesn't hit us, because this is a nice ride now down to Fort Collins here with the breakaways. But the wind, yes, that is another factor. That could well blow these riders along. Well, we've been enjoying all week some great interviews from Dirk Friel on the Training Peaks Riderology interview sessions. So let's go back with Steve Slanger and hear about the latest one.
Yes, it is our daily dose of Dirk here at the USA Pro Challenge, crunching the numbers that shape the riders' performances. And Dirk, stage number 5 was an individual uphill time trial. And what did the data tell you about what the riders were going through during the course of that effort?
Yes, you know, a lot of the riders these days race with power meters, much like this one. We saw Rory Sutherland of Saxo Tinkoff average 21 miles per hour up Vail Pass. That's a 1,500-foot climb for 10 miles, 27-minute all-out effort. 21 miles per hour. Most people can't do that for nearly 2 miles.
And what kind of power did he produce going uphill?
Yes, just over 5 watts per kilo. That was 393 watts that he averaged. If you're a 200-pound guy, you would have to produce 500 watts to maintain the same speed as Rory Sutherland.
Makes your head spin, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely amazing stuff.
All right, we will see you tomorrow. One final visit. Thanks, Dirk.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yes, thanks Dirk and Steve there. As we go back to the action, they're picking up a very strong tailwind at the moment as they are now continuing. Well, this is going to make it a little bit more of a problem for those chasing riders. 31 miles to the finish, and the speed these boys are going, they could accomplish that in about an hour. So pictures of the deserters again just for the moment out on the course. We're looking here at the finishing line. Now we're back out on course. Now the skies are beginning to look a little bit thunderous just now, and that's another reason why these boys are scampering for the finish with a very strong tailwind. They don't want to get wet because it's about an hour and 5 minutes to the finish in Fort Collins now for the breakaway of 15 up front. The gap is at minute 45 at the moment, and it's still being left to the riders on Cannondale to try and close this breakaway down. As we start to move around now, these riders continuing here. As we go down now, let's have a look at the drift clip of the day here. These are the cameras on the bikes as we see the riders leaving the start house in Vale. We get all of these unusual little catches there from this brand new camera, and that's our drift clip of the day. Coming off that little plateau here at the moment. Just about starting to head down towards the Horsetooth Reservoir just now, and that'll put us on the outskirts of Fort Collins. Richie Porte, this is the man that guided the Tour de France winner Chris Froome around France, and what a great ride he did for him on that first day into the Pyrenees at Aix-les-Thermes. He took a bad day the next day and we thought, oh, he'd overdone it, but he came back again. He was absolutely outstanding alongside Chris Froome.
Well, I'd say Philly came back again and again and again, because he was right there, right the way through to the Alps at the end.
Yeah, he was. But like many of the riders who've come from the Tour de France to the high altitude of Colorado, they've been unable to cope because the Sky team only came in 48 hours before the race got underway, and that is not good enough, I don't think. Well, as we are watching the riders here, Steve, there's no windows in my commentary box, as you know, so I can't see the sky. Tell me, what's it looking like over the finishing line here?
Phil, not too bad right now. Some white puffy clouds, partly sunny. It's dry, no wind, so pretty decent conditions at the finish. And I know you were just talking about Richie Porte a moment ago. I spoke with him before this race started, and he was very philosophical about his position coming into this race. Said he hadn't done much training, took some time off the bike, put on a little weight, so he knew that he was going to suffer. But I also asked him, because this was his first time in the U.S., period, I said, what are you looking forward to doing? What do you want to see? What do you want to eat? He simply said, I'd like to see a bear. If nothing else, I'd like to see a bear, not during the race, but at some point during my stay.
Well, you know what, Steve? That was also my ambition when I came to the first USA Pro Challenge 3 years ago.
Have you seen one?
And we saw one on the second edition, which was last year. We were driving through a trail going to A to B in the early evening, and there he was. And guess what he was doing? What I've always read about, turning a trash can upside down. Isn't that amazing?
How close did you get, Phil?
Oh, no, it would have been about 700 yards away in the hillside. But he found a homestead and he was checking out the trash can.
Well, Phil, you need to get that bear to Richie Porte so those two can get together.
Yeah, it's like when I also went my first time into, you know what happens with all Europeans who go to Australia for the bike race, all they want to see is a koala, which isn't a bear, by the way. Just wanted to see a koala, and we've seen that as well. Anyway, thanks for the update on the sky. I hope it stays fluffy all the way to the finish for the riders coming in now, heading to Fort Collins. But this tailwind, you know, is going to make this chase an awful lot longer than perhaps it was meant to be. Let's begin with the USA cycling standings here in the USA Pro Challenge. It makes happy reading. TJ Van Garderen is #1. Tom Danielson is 3rd overall. Lawson Craddock is 7th. Carter Jones is 11th, completing in the top 15. Lucas Yusa is there for United Healthcare as well. Well, the lead is slowing down just a little bit for the moment as they continue to attack this slight rise. And you can see at the back of the race there is Javier Mejias. He's a Spanish rider on Team Novo Nordisk, which is a team comprised of Team Type 1 diabetes riders. And I think we can tell you more about that if I don't fall over my tongue. Let's find out.
I was first diagnosed with diabetes when I just turned 3. It was 11 years ago. I've been riding my bike for about a year now. It's really an undescribable feeling. My main goal when I grow up is to be a professional bike racer.
I met Jake in Philadelphia in June. He was just inspired by the team. And he told me, my dream is to race for your team and do it in the Tour de France.
It's truly amazing how a bunch of diabetic bike riders can race and practice every day and be so good at what they do while maintaining their blood sugars. You shouldn't be excluded from stuff just because you have a disease, and that you should be able to do everything that every normal kid can do also.
Yes, this team of Novo Nordisk really is an inspiration to all who suffer with diabetes, because these boys all suffer from type 1 diabetes, and what a credit they are. One man in the breakaway today, and that is Javier Mejias of Spain. Just over to the right, 92. Still lots of work to be done in this breakaway. It's Tiago Machado, the Portuguese champion, on the front just at the moment.
Well, I feel that leading group, Phil, is starting to pick up one or two passengers, which will demoralise the riders who are doing the pace making, especially after a long breakaway like this. It tends to eat into your morale when you feel as if you're carrying other guys along and you wonder, well, why aren't they coming forward and doing some work?
Yes, indeed. And 92 miles covered now, though. The tailwind, and they're continuing at this high speed. It's holding at an average now of 28.3 miles an hour, which is a very, very fast time indeed today. Faster than the organisation expected, for sure. And it's all down to the chase now from Team Cannondale. This was the day that everybody was saying could be a breakaway and could be successful at the moment. Although the gap is only 140, they still aren't getting any closer. But they are under control, I think, seeing it. They continue to scorch away from the Rocky Mountains now, bound for Fort Worth. 3¼ hours the riders have been in the saddle today. The gap is down to 1 minute 25 seconds. These are the 15 leaders. Andrew Talansky's the rider at the back here at the moment in blue. There's the full list of names for you. It looked for a while that they were starting to pull away with the help of that tailwind, but I think right now it's advantaged the main field itself. They're beginning to close in quite rapidly. As we go back into that main field, there's a look at Tommy Danielson, where I much prefer the face of Steve Perino on the motorbike. Steve.
Well, Phil, I was just speaking to Talansky's director, Charlie Vigalius, about the odds of him staying away with that group. He said not so high. That tailwind, it has gone down. He said the one chance is that Cannondale, a foreign team, isn't going to know how severe these shark teeth, these little rises are before the finish line. Their team, they know it intimately. Cannondale may not. They may underestimate it, in which case they may not be able to bring this back this break.
Wow, that is an interesting fact, Steve, because probably unlike you, I've never been in this part of the world before, and I didn't know about those undulations. Well, that's really very interesting. We'll watch out for that, you know, because there's Cannondale on the front. They're doing what team helpers do, and that's set the pace, but it might get shaken on those undulations. Well, the whole team's come up for Cannondale. I thought they were resting some of the riders for Sagan, but it looks like they've changed their mind now. We've got Ted King on the front just at the moment, while we look at the breakaway as well, going extremely well. Apparently, Paul, there is a series of undulations which are short and steep, and some of the riders in the peloton are thinking that this might crack the Cannondale chase.
Well, you can see on the profile down towards the end, there are those nasty little ripples. We had said that this run-in was a bit of a roller coaster. Well, it certainly is.
Well, there's the whiteboard showing what we've told you, 1:25, so the breakaway knows. He'll also have told the peloton. Josh Edmondson, the English rider here, he comes from Yorkshire, which is where, by the way, next year's Tour de France will start. Oh yes, we call it the Tour de France, but it starts in other countries every other year. and then races back into France. Michael Rogers is the rider in second place there, and just up behind him, just riding along as well, is Thomas Dekker, number 3. So while we look at this, let's have a look then at Tom Milligan, the VP of External Relations at Colorado State University. He's our Steve Schlanger interview.
I'm with Tom Milligan, who is the Vice President for External Affairs at Colorado State University. And Tom, not a stretch to think that an in-state school would be involved with the USA Pro Challenge in Colorado, but what is it specifically that brought you to this race?
Well, we're excited because like the USA Pro Challenge, we touch all 4 corners of Colorado. We have offices throughout the state, and we get students from across the world and in every state of the union. So it made a whole lot of sense for us to partner with this because USA Pro Challenge, like us, has a global reach based right here in beautiful Colorado.
And your connections to this race run pretty deep. You are the sponsor of the Best Young Rider jersey. How does that tie-in fit with your objectives?
Well, it makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because the Best Young Rider is about the future of the sport. And we, as a university, a public research university, and one of the best in the country, are all about building a better future, both in Colorado and around the world. So it made a lot of sense for us to get involved with this. Plus, we want people from around the world to see what a great place Colorado is. And I don't know, maybe come here and enroll in our online classes. There's lots of opportunities for that. So we're excited about the opportunity.
And everyone right now excited about this cycling race, but are the Rams ready for football season?
I think Coach Mack's going to get them ready to go. I'm looking forward to the season. I know they are too. So, yeah, I think we're ready.
All right, Tom, thanks very much.
Hey, thank you.
It may sound unusual for a university to sponsor any sport, but they're absolutely right. It's the seat of learning, and the only other country where I think university sponsors the sport of cycling is Australia, where the South Australian University also sponsor the young team in their race, which is the Santos Tour Down Under in January. Picking up on Jens Voigt here now, the most courageous rider of stage 3, some would say, of every day. This man never knows how to say no. I'm just surprised he's not in that group at the moment up front. But he isn't, and he's back here in the main peloton. Why, they've got to decide how they catch up before we get down to the finish in about 50 minutes' time. Yes, here, back with the leaders. We've got 2 riders clear now. They've just gone away from the front of the group. They are Tiago Machado, the champion of Portugal, on the left of our picture, and Kirk Carlson of Team Bissell, an American. And we've told you every day this week how Bissell never missed the moves, and now they're going again. This is how it happened, and it only just happened. As first it was Machado, the Portuguese rider, who broke clear. Seemed to be no reaction, then all of a sudden Kirk Carlson thought, I'm coming after you. They've got together now, and I think it was because they sensed that that breakaway was beginning to become a little bit disorganized. Now the big question is, can they reinvigorate that breakaway with this attack by the 2 riders still back in the main field? It is the Cannondale. Now we have heard that the Cannondale boys are unaware of these undulations towards the end, and it might hurt them a little bit more than the breakaway.
Well, certainly, but they've got the help and the firepower of a team like BMC, who've also got their own reasons to work with Cannondale, because their man, Greg van Avermaet, after a tough day like this, has got the chance and the ability to get himself a stage victory. He was second on the opening stage around Aspen Snowmass. A little bit upset to be beaten by Peter Sagan, but he has had good form since July.
Just the one rider from Team BMC showing up there. Well, he's not really doing any pacemaking. He's just sitting in the 3rd wheel at the moment, as the breakaway itself is now in pursuit of 2 riders up front, Machado and Carlson. The rest of the names for you are here. And we've got 2 riders, I think, crossing the gap down there, Paul, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. This is the rider from Argos. Yep, from Argos Shimano. He saw that as being a very important move, and he's gone so fast past them that they've not been able to get onto his slipstream.
Simon Geschke has reached the leaders. Now it's a reshake out of the strong men if they can actually... He's not waiting. He wants them to come back up to him, because he knows that if they ease up, that group will rejoin.
Well,
Machado trying to repair the damage first.
Yeah, Machado sees that as an important moment to try and get across. He's going very, very quickly here, Geschke.
Geschke, yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, If he keeps the pressure on like this, it could change a little bit the formation of the race, because as you said, Team Cannondale are appearing to be under a bit of difficulty, but when you look back to the main field, they're in such a long line, they've still got some firepower left in those legs.
Well, Simon Gescher, he was, last time he won a race, he was on the Skill Shimano team, which the Argos Shimano team became back in 2012. And he won the second stage of a great French race in March called the Criterium International. Only race he's ever won, by the way. Been a pro since 2009. But there he is. He looks as though he's grown his beard over those last few years as well, as he now starts to keep the pressure on. I think he's doing the right thing, because if those boys are strong, they will join him and they'll have split the breakaway.
Well, that's the ideal. It's a little bit of decanting the strengths. The stronger boys going to the top of the milk, just like the cream would do, and that's why he's looking to make a move like that. And if Machado can get across to him, he knows he'll have a very strong ally. Meanwhile, the yellow jersey on the shoulders of TJ Van Garderen, he's just waiting to get over these last little ripples. As you look at the magnificent backdrop of this area, we've seen an unbelievable part of the state of Colorado, which has been beamed around the world over these last couple of days, and the weather has been quite remarkable.
And that's the Horsetooth Reservoir there. So on Wednesday night, the hunters will become the hunted on the NBC SN as 5 captains head out for one more monstrous adventure. It's the season finale of Shark Hunters, Wednesday at 10 Eastern on the NBC SN. As we swing around the side of the reservoir here, the breakaway has had to put on pressure. 16 plus miles to race down to the finish. Simon Gescher on the attack. So as the riders are beginning to crack a little bit at the front now, we've still got in the distance there, the rain is coming down over the tail end of the Rockies, as we now can get back down to the leaders now, and it's been strengthened a little bit at the front. There's the man that started it, number 63, Gescher. Michael Rogers has come across, number 41. In this breakaway, this is a strong group. Thomas Dekker, another Dutchman on Garmin Sharp. He's up on number 2 wheel. The man leading in black is Josh Edmondson, the British rider. And Duarte is the other rider here who's got up to the leaders from Colombia. So there are 5 very strong men now up front. Now we'll try and sort it out for you. The 5 seconds are the 5 leaders over 3 riders, 15 seconds over the rest of the breakaway. The peloton are 1.5 minutes, and we're running out of time to catch these riders up right now, because we're into the last 15 miles of the day. Now just checking here, Lucas Jusa here. He was in the peloton, but he's now trying to get across. I'm not too sure where he is right now. He's trying to get away from the peloton behind. He's in a very high position overall, so I'm not sure they'll allow him too much of a lead, but a good move. So we're heading down to Fort Collins at the moment. Shut up, legs. That's a note for Jens Voigt. He's got that slogan written in English on his bicycle. But the cheers here. Now, these are those nasty little inclines just before the finish. 5 riders clear. Now, I think that picture gives us the idea of how hard these little snappy ones are before we get into Fort Collins.
Nasty little ramps, and that's why this breakaway group has fragmented on the first one, and then started to project a group of 5 riders up towards the front end of this race. But it's also having a serious effect on the front end of the main field. We are really looking at, I think these guys have gone out and got jerseys for almost every professional bike rider in the race, because that ram on the left there, well, he's supporting Danielson.
The local team here in Fort Collins. Lucas Jusa trying to get away from the main field. The lone figures there trying to catch up now. The breakaways are all over the road here right now. Well, we could be on the side of Aldo, except we need a mountain on the left as well as the right just now. But these are the riders heading up this little incline.
Well, Gescher has been dropped from this group. We're now down to 4.
Well, I hope he moves over soon. Well done. I know a red jersey is the leader's jersey in the King of the Mountains, but you need a bike as well. Michael Rogers now setting the pace. This is a very determined move by these riders, and you know, it has brought a big deal of doubt to the peloton catching up now. Thomas Dekker number 3 there, Josh Edmondson, the British rider on Team Sky. Peeping in at the back is Duarte, the Colombian. Dropped now, this is Lucas Schuster here at the moment, but dropped now is the man that started it, Simon Geschke.
Well, he's done a great job, Booster, there. He's actually catching one by one some of the riders who've been left behind. And there's a lot of men in difficulty at the back. A few moments ago, Chris Froome was dropped by this group, and hovering, just trying to hang on to the back tail of the bus here is number 12, Richie Porte.
Well, he's at the back of the peloton as these riders now. This is the breakaway as well at the front, and Thomas Decker's going through, followed by Michael Rogers. Duarte is the man in white, not to be confused with the man who started it, Geschke in white, because he's been dropped. And this is Josh Edmondson here. Has a very strange position, Josh, doesn't he? He sits right forward on that saddle.
Yes, he does. And this is what is happening in the main field. They're still looking dedicated to the job in hand, getting delayed, I think, a fraction by the motorbikes. They've caught up the referee motorbikes here. There is Duarte. He was in the breakaway a little bit earlier, swiftly brought back into the main field. 1 minute and 20 seconds is the gap at 20 kilometers to go.
Well, the crowd here are witnessing a dramatic moment here in the USA Pro Challenge as the race tries to force its way all together now. The boys in Cannondale still trying to force the pace. Riders in trouble in the breakaway as well now.
This guy from Cannondale here is absolutely in pain as we see the Armada over on the left-hand side on the lake which circumnavigates this area.
Well, this is when the final moment comes. There's Ben King at the back, number 22, we just caught a glimpse of. The main field is splitting up. This proved to be a really tough little rise here. And so as the riders continue to race on, this is going to be a charge to Fort Collins now. Well, as we've seen, Estes Park is a charming mountain town and also the location of the famed Stanley Hotel. The hotel the Stephen King's The Shining was inspired by. But here we look at Horsetooth Reservoir, local favourite for boating, beaching and biking its perimeter, which is where the riders are just passing at the moment, with that breakaway still clear of 4 riders getting themselves together, but the initial 15-man breakaway, well, that's been spread-eagled over the little rides here. There's another rider just being swept up from the breakaway. That's Pat McCarthy, who's gone through. Kirk Carlson is still up front somewhere, his teammate on Bissell. These riders now have stayed pretty much together as we rejoin the leaders. This is Michael Rogers in the orange. Thomas Decker scurrying through with number 3 on his back. Josh Edmondson is the British rider going through. And the man just off our lens is Mejias. He's number 92. And he is the rider on Team Novo Nordisk. Now, down at the finish in Fort Collins, that's where the New Belgium Brewing Company are located. And today they're having a bit of a viewing party. So, waiting for the finish to come in, our Steve Shanger is checking out and no doubt sampling. Steve.
We are here at the New Belgium Brewery, which is a convenient 4 short blocks from the finish of today's stage in Fort Collins. Jay Richardson here is one of the top dogs at the New Belgium Brewery. And Jay, I could take a guess about what's going down here today, but why don't you explain what's happening on this Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, sure. We're in the Liquid Center, which is our tasting room. It's especially festive today because we're throwing a party for the fact that the Pro Challenge is finishing in our hometown, Fort Collins.
Put 2 and 2 together for me. What is the connection between bikes and beer for the brewery?
The origins of our company were from a bike ride in Belgium. Our co-founder, Jeff Liebisch, was riding his bike through Belgium, learning about the beer culture, and imagined one day making similar beers, and that would eventually turn into New Belgium Brewing.
How significant is it to have a race of this stature come to Northern Colorado for the first time?
It's a great honor. I think it's a fitting honor for the city of Fort Collins, recently recognized as a platinum-level bicycle-friendly community. It's just fitting that this kind of celebration of competition and biking will allow us to show off our town.
We've been watching this race from a booth most of the way. You mind if we set up shop here for the rest of the afternoon?
You're welcome to.
Jay, thanks.
Sure.
Yes, thanks very much, Steve. And yes, they are doing great things for cycling in Fort Collins as they link up there with the City Council. These are the 4 leaders now out in front. Michael Rogers, who did a little bit of a rest period, but now he's certainly working very, very well at the front. Now look at that, 4 wheels out in the open field here, but having a job to keep up with the riders in the USA Pro Challenge. Oh, we've lost them for the moment, but there they are. And so, talking of 4 wheels, tomorrow morning the Formula 1 World Championship will continue on the NBCSN with one of the most intense races on the F1 calendar. I'm talking, of course, about the Belgian Grand Prix. It's live tomorrow morning, 7:30 Eastern on NBCSN. Now we're running down towards the finish. They're running out of distance, and that breakaway, what's left of them, 4 riders, have still not been swept up by the peloton. Michael Rogers isn't going to waste all of his energy all day for nothing. I know this tough Aussie from Canberra, which is the ACT, the Australian Capital Territory. And at the back of this group now is Mechias from the Changing Diabetes team of Novo Nordisk. Remember, all of those riders in the white jerseys here suffering from type 1 diabetes and showing that it shouldn't stop you enjoying sport. Thomas Dekker, number 3 there. And there's been a crash back in the main field here, and just picking himself up, a Tom Zerbel on the left of the road here. He's been left standing. He's the champion, time trial champion. The other rider here is Fabio Duarte. He's only just come back into the field. That has just happened. Show you something of it again. It caught us off guard. That's what happened. And that is Andy Schleck running off the road there and getting his bike back on it. He was very close to it from Team Radio Shack. Rapid bicycle adjustment here to get it going. This is Tom Zerbel's bike. It just shows you when the desperate moments as riders start to really panic towards the finish. This is the champion, time trial champion of the USA. And while all that's encountering behind these 4 riders, these are the 4-man lead group. We're going through 107 miles now. We've got about 7 miles left to go to the finish. Are these 4 going to decide the day? Aggression, great sport today on the roads of Colorado. We're bound for Fort Collins. These 4 riders are still clear. The rest of Blake has imploded, and the gap is just about half a minute spread now, and we're running out of time. About 5 miles to go, just under. Now these boys are all looking strong. This is the selection from that group, which Geschke started, and Geschke could not control. He's gone now. He's back in the field. Thomas Dekker's taking a drink there for Garmin Sharp. He was on the team of the Scotsman David Miller. Miller retiring today from the race with saddle stores.
Yeah, very difficult to race through, you know, but TJ Van Garderen was probably very comfortably sitting near the front end of the main field, looking at his mileometer, saying kilometre and kilometre going by, that all I've got to do now is get through these final 7 or 8 kilometres, and tomorrow it's Denver.
Well, it's not going to be Denver tomorrow as a winner from that front 4, Paul, because look at this now. The gap is almost shut down. It's been a real tough chase by Cannondale, but take your hats off to them because they've almost caught up with the quarry of 4 leaders.
Yeah, they have really been the firepower, with a little bit of assistance from BMC in the job of trying to pull this all back together. And finally, now that these teams who also have sprinters on board can feel the possibility of a sprint victory, they're also surging to the front.
Peloton snapping at the heels of the 4 leaders. Rogers keeps looking over his shoulder to see where they are. He knows how close they are as they prepare to take a sharp left-hand bend. The peloton itself has somewhat regrouped after that split around the reservoirs.
Rowan Dennis sitting at the back there, number 4. He's had a hard day at the office this afternoon.
Well, our picture's still sticking a little bit, but as you can see now, there's the leaders at the front and about to pull back, and there's the chasers just behind.
That's less than 10 seconds, I'd have to tell you, yeah. Phil. It's Optum Kelly Benefits doing the pacemaking now. I'm looking a little bit further down the main field to see where. There we go. You see, but the rider there, Mechias, has decided he's going to try and go it alone, and Mick Rogers will not let anybody go clear. That's Mechias from Novo Nordisk, and the other 2 riders sitting up, Edmondson and Thomas Dekker.
Michael Rogers has gone with him 3 times, the world time trial champion. Still willing to try and work with Mejias. The other 2 are being swept up now. Rogers and a Team Novo Nordisk rider, Mejias, trying to hold them off. But I'm afraid this is only going to delay the catch here and cause a little bit of the confusion. 3.6 miles to the finish, just under 6 kilometres.
Well, hats off to Michael Rogers for having a go there, because if anybody could pull something off like that, a run into the finish over the final 5 kilometres, it is Michael Rogers. That gap now is not more than 5 seconds.
And Thomas Dekkers, who was moments ago in the 4 lead, is now having real difficulty hanging on to the tail of the main peloton here as they are racing towards the finish. The Australian Rowan Dennis at the back. The catch is still not there. 5.6 kilometres to go to the finish. 3.4 miles. We still have 2 riders distracting the sprinting teams.
Well, Mick Rogers there.
I think that's the surrender, is it?
Well, it's now down for the sprinters. It's all back together there now, Phil. They're on either side of the road. Peter Sagan is up there, but I've also noticed the American national champion, Freddie Rodriguez, is paying a serious amount of attention to the back wheel of Peter Sagan. Now, if anybody could jump past Peter Sagan, it could be the 39-year-old American who won the national title for the 4th time this year.
Freddie Rodriguez, whose nickname is Fast Freddy, and he hasn't had a chance to show us that yet this week. We thought he might be looking for tomorrow, but maybe he's finding time. Could be today as we race into Fort Collins now.
Well, currently, Greg Van Avermaet, who was second on the first stage, was right up towards the front, and in fact, he's riding in front of Peter Sagan at the moment.
Peter Sagan is riding approximately 10 men down the lines in a perfect position. He's every time he sensed the break he's going to go, he's gone with it, but it's all come back together again. August Shimano pushing on at the front. They've got good sprinting prowess there. We've seen Luka Mecic sprint very well. Little bit of a move to try and break up the sprinters.
Well, this again, it looks like it's Saxo Tinkoff trying to put a bit of confusion amongst the sprinters. But, you know, the sprinters now are being so very attentive that once that acceleration happened, they responded immediately.
Well, they're going to get these flurries of attacks from riders who can't sprint to try and draw the sting of the teams of the sprinters. They're certainly lifting the speed, but still running now. Our average speed for the day is 28.5 miles an hour.
Well, you notice from 5th position down to 8th position, it's all BMC riders. The rider in the white jersey, of course, is Michael Shah, and it's BMC now who are getting the organisation. That, of course, is for Greg Van Avermaet.
The riders in red, but there are still riders with very fast sprinters, and they've never had what we would call a pure sprint finish all week. There have been disruptions on the run into the line. Sagan has got 2 wins in the end, and Saxo Tinkoff have gone again. And this time, remember, they had 3 men in the breakaway. Now they're using the rest of the team to try and break it up.
Well, it's still back together. That was done by the work of Cannondale, who is scrambling to stay in contact. The black and red jersey there of BMC, they'll be thinking about them and Greg Van Avermaet, but watch out for Peter Sagan, Phil. He's very attentive. He probably have to freelance a little bit here, and in fact Peter Sagan there in that green jersey is locked onto the wheel of Greg Van Avermaet of Belgium and BMC.
Well, he's gambling on it being his arch rival taking him on in the sprint, and he can't mark everything. But again, another attack has gone up the road. Is it the black jersey of a rider from Colombia on the flat roads heading into Fort Collins, who is trying to slip away? 1.6 miles to the finish. The gap is opening. It is a rider from Colombia who has gone clear, but which one is it?
Well, it's a great move.
Well, I think most likely would be Shalapud who's trying a move here, because Atapuma is highly placed overall, unlike to be given his head.
Well, they're trying to organise the chase behind. It's very, very difficult to make a move like this in the latter part of a race and survive, because the main field, once they get themselves organised, can bowl along at 40 miles an hour.
Well, unfortunately, these roads are wide, and in full view of the peloton, those legs that weren't going to carry him to the finish, as we continue now on course for the final mile of the day. And we're all together, Paul, now as Peter Sagan, he's riding in 6th place in the line. He's in a perfect place. We're about to hit the maximum 1 kilometre to go.
Yep, and it's all together. There is the banner indicating 1,000 metres to the finishing line. Sagan is locked right in there. There's a bit of confusion now. It's slowing down. When it slows down like this, riders take massive risks to come up round the outside. Freddie Rodriguez is not too far away in the red, white and blue, but it's still Team BMC trying to organise it. Here's the confusion.
Well, look at this now. We've got another move right off the front here. Sagan is gambling a little bit, as he always does. He's in the green jersey down there. He's trying to squeeze through on the rails. He's fourth wheel at the moment. Greg Van Avermaet is in second place as we head down towards the finish.
Well, there's a very good move there. Looks like Saxo Tinkoff Bank have made the move again as they go around this sweeping bend. But it's Team Sky on the front of the main field trying to close it all down. It's Rory Sutherland.
Rory Sutherland it is who's trying. He can sprint when he wants to, as he might try to launch up. As he now goes, Sifsefs falls back on the left. The shoulders of Freddie Rodriguez. Greg Van Avermaet makes his run. But has Rory Sutherland pulled the coup of a lifetime here? As Rory Sutherland heads towards the line. Here comes Peter Sagan. Sagan hits the line. Freddie Rodriguez second, and in third place, Greg Van Avermaet. Oh, it wasn't. It was Metchek again, finishing second to Sagan. He's not going to be happy with that.
Well, I tell you who will be happy with that, Peter Sagan. I thought for one mad moment there, Phil, that the man from Australia, Rory Sutherland, had just got the jump on them. But, you know, it's a tough man to be able to stay away from the front end of the main field. Andy Schleck, Andries Kloden just coming in at the back end of the peloton. But what a charge for the line that was.
Well, that was a fine piece of riding by Rory Sutherland, and he almost pulled it off. It all happened so quickly. But Peter Sagan is not a man to panic, and again he had to take on his arch rival in the sprint, Greg Van Avermaet. But once more, Paul, it is this new rider, Luka Metchek from Slovenia, who has taken on the Slovakian and this time had to play second fiddle again.
Well, I don't think we need to ask ourselves, Phil, how many questions about who is going to win the points competition at this year's US Pro Challenge. I think the man who leads it has pretty much walked away with that competition tonight. I think Freddie Rodriguez a little disappointed there. He was in a very good position coming into the final bend, but got swept out a fraction.
So Sagan wins, but Luka Metchek, 25 years of age, second again this week to Sagan. There is the yellow jersey, and making it look to us, as it has been all day, a routine day for TJ Van Garderen. Let's have a look at the winner.
Oh, brilliant ride by this man. His team, he will have to, I think he needs to buy them a round of drinks tonight, Phil, because they did a phenomenal job. They rode on the front end of the main field for more. Look at the speed of Sagan here in the green jersey. He and Greg Van Avermaet were going for it, but once he wants to get that victory, he's such a difficult man to beat. And once again, Van Avermaet tried to come up through the middle, but he just doesn't have that final kick. And as you say, on the far side, Metchek and then Van Avermaet gets third place.
And that is Peter Sagan's 17th win of the year, which in UCI races makes him the #1 winner.
Bear in mind, he invested time and money to get ready for this bike race. He came here 2 weeks before the race started in Aspen, and he knew the roads exceptionally well. He got used to the altitude, and I think we better watch out for this man in the latter part of the season as well, because that's 3 stages out of 6.
And there's, no, it's not Simon Gescu, it's the teammate of Simon Gescu, who's just coming up to the finishing line. The crowd enjoying what was to be about 10 seconds of seeing the race come up the street here in Fort Collins and hitting the line with the best sprinters in the world. And the best sprinter of the moment and the world, Peter Sagan, getting his 3rd stage win of the week with a possibility of a 4th one tomorrow. Let's have a look at the United Healthcare stage results. Peter Sagan, he from Slovakia, and he's the champion, beats Metchek from Slovenia. Greg Van Avermaet of Belgium is 3rd. Edwin Avila of Team Colombia nearly finished off, but his teammate started in 4th, and Alessandro Bazzana there in 5th. Andrea Perron in 6th from Team Novo Nordisk. Sutherland, in that last few yards, faded to 7th.
Yes, and Freddie Rodriguez in 8th place. He was in a good position. There's still riders a long way down, and one of the riders left behind on the route today. In fact, we're looking at 3.5 minutes gone by. One rider we're still waiting to see come in is the Tour de France winner, Chris Froome.
Well, Chris won't worry too much about that. Richie Porter's just come in that group. And they are the hard workers, the Cannondale boys, just making sure as they look towards the podium to make sure that their man was there, because they've had an incredibly busy day. 52 is Damiano Caruso, who's had a very, very good tour. But they did their job well. What a day of hard work they have had, keeping that breakaway under control, and in the end, of course, having to bring it back in the most difficult part of the race. Fort Collins, where the race has never finished before, and we started from a town we've never been to before as well, in Loveland. So it's been a perfect day out for the two towns as the riders now make ready for the penultimate prize presentation. Familiar man on the podium. That's the run by Rory Sutherland. At this point, I thought he'd done it, but all of a sudden, Peter Sagan into overdrive gets his third win. We'll be back in Fort Collins in just a moment. Welcome back to Fort Collins, the first time that the USA Pro Challenge has arrived here, and what a race it was today. In the end, it became a sprint finish, so let's have a look at our Cliff Bar meet at the moment. Riders out on course. There's Peter Sagan watching everybody, chatting there with Tom Danielson, sits third overall, but when it got down to the finish, there was no talking. They swept up all the late attacks, and Peter Sagan getting his third stage win of the week, adding stages 1 and 3, now alongside stage number 6. Metchek on the right getting second, the man in red, Van Avermaet, taking third. That's our Cliff Bar defining moment. And there's the crowd here now gathering in the centre of Fort Collins in this beautiful old town village here of Fort Collins, a 19th century town. And there are the supporters of Sagan, and many of them are American because they've had all the Sagan's portrait made up in cardboard. Let's have a look at the United Healthcare stage results first. Just on 4 hours of racing for 115 miles. It was fast today. Luka Metchek gets his second place to Sagan. Greg Van Avermaet, he's had a second, now he'll have to have a third as well. Avila of Colombia, very good sprint for a Colombian, in fourth. Alessandro Bazzana there in fifth. Andrea Perron, Tino Renaudet, had a very good day out, that team, sixth. Rory Sutherland in the end swept away to cross the line only in seventh place. The champion of the USA, Freddie Rodriguez, sharpening his legs for tomorrow, finishing eighth. When you saw that lead there by Rory Sutherland, I thought there's no way they can catch him up now as he runs into the finish. He had some power to accelerate, but look how fast they're closing in. Greg Van Avermaet went for it and very, very quickly had to play second to Peter Sagan, who raced across the line first ahead of Metchek, Van Avermaet and Avila. There's the other view from it. And just look at the face on the man in red. Can't believe he's lost again. He's getting tired of seeing Peter Sagan come in front of him just before the finishing line. Happy atmosphere down here in Fort Collins. They've been here all day. They've been treated to a women's bicycle race, which ran for noon through 1 o'clock. Now they're all getting ready for the prize presentation here. At the end of the day, it's decided two things. We've already got the King of the Mountains winner in Matt Cook. That was decided 2 days ago, in fact. Well, today, that win by Peter Sagan has made sure nobody catches up with him in the Cliff Bar sprint competition. So as everybody gets ready for the podiums, Paul, we're down in Denver tomorrow, and that is going to be a great, very flat circuit race.
Very fast indeed, very exciting, and there's a good chance for the spectators to see the race on 8 occasions. It's a little bit lumpy once we get to downtown.
So from that profile, would you?
No, but it's a little bit exaggerated, the profile. Yeah. It doesn't change by very much more than about 5 or 6 feet. And it will be fast, it will be rapid, and there will be, judging by the crowd today, I think there will be a huge crowd in Denver tomorrow.
Well, the city is known as the Mile High City, of course, and that's where we'll be all day tomorrow. It is going to be very, very special at the moment, and I think what we've seen today, though, is a terrific race by TJ Van Garderen. At the end of the day, he didn't have any hope at all of being attacked, because they tried once to attack him on the climb. The result was TJ, frankly, never looked out of breath all day.
Well, I don't think even when he was attacked on the race up to Beaver Creek, he looked very comfortable, well within himself, and he rode a superb individual time trial. Today, I think it was a perfect day for them, but what a great ride by Team Cannondale.
Yeah, they did their job well, didn't they? Now, looking at those black clouds rolling in, so let's get on with the presentations before rain hits town. Look at that on across the flatlands. So there we are. The rain is exactly as it was 24 hours ago. We were just coming into town. Now I can hear that Steve Schlanger has got behind the scenes and he's found our ace sprinter of the toys with Peter Sagan. Steve.
And Peter, if you could describe how the sprint happened today in Fort Collins.
Today I'm very, very happy for the victory, and thank you for all my teammates, because he did all day on the front, and he putting on the front for take a breakaway. And yeah, for the sprint, for me, don't reminding never riders from my team, because everyone riders pulling on the front before. And then it was a little bit crazy because too many riders trying attack the last 3 kilometers, and yeah, from another teams always take him, and then yeah, I did a good sprint. I can won.
Once the breakaway came back, did you have any doubt you were going to get the win?
Sorry?
Did you have any doubt once it came down to the sprint that you were going to win?
Yeah, I think for me it was a good sprint. Another riders pulling on the front, and I start maybe last 200 meters.
Congratulations. We'll see you go for number 4 tomorrow.
Thank you.
Well done, Peter. And yeah, he's never happier than when he's winning bike races. Now he's won more than anybody else in the sport this year. So we should be getting underway now with the prize presentation. Peter Sagan, Paul, has said about his team, he had to win this one today because they did so much work for him all day, and he was privileged.
Well, they were on the front for somewhere between 70 and 80 miles today. That's 110, 120 kilometers. And they did an exceptional job of work. I mean, pulling back a 15-man group is not an easy feat.
Well, you know, 185 kilometers in a race time of 4 hours and 1 minute, and over those hills as well. That race never slowed at all today. It was really quick.
It was rapid. I mean, the start over the first hour of racing, 50-something kilometers an hour. Yeah.
Yep.
Of course, they did slow down a bit when they went uphill, but that's only natural. Picked it up again on the descent. But very shortly, there he is, the yellow jersey.
Well, he's on the podium. Let's go and have a look at him as TJ Van Garderen salutes the crowd here. He went to university here in Fort Collins. The race has never been here before. So the prodigal son is back in town in yellow. Let's have a look at the United Healthcare overall standings. They're exactly the same, the top 5, as they were at the start of the day. In the end, all the riders finishing together. Van Garderen now takes a minute 30 on his teammate into Denver tomorrow. 1:42 on Tom Danielson. Acevedo living up to his reputation. He sits in 4th at 2:10. Lachlan Morton at 2:34 in 5th. Further down?
Well, further down now, I reckon a revelation here. Gregory Brenes of Costa Rica in 6th place. Lawson Craddock in 7th. George Bennett, the Kiwi, a solid ride there in 8th position. And Rory Sutherland in 9th. A bit further down, rounding out the top 10. Philip Dignan of Ireland and United Healthcare in 10th.
Let's go back down now, the stage podium. 3rd time this week for Peter Sagan. It could be a 4th tomorrow, unless they can plan a way around him. But he gets a stage 6 winner's jersey, the flowers, and he's a very happy man tonight in Fort Collins.
Oh, he certainly is. Team fantastic, brilliant job that they did out there on the road for him to put him up there in the right place. Yes, he did have to look after himself a little bit down towards the end, and I'm sure that he did. At 23 years of age, feel that pressure on his shoulders to get them for the win, for the work they did.
Now, this is his handicap for tomorrow. He's got to sprint on that bike.
Well, I wouldn't put it past him doing a successful job on that bike either. And he's got a carrier on the front to bring all the bottles up for the riders.
He's such a character, Peter Sagan. I think that's a very fitting winner's prize. He's doing a wheelie on it. There we are. They all know what he's doing.
Well, that's the Belgian cruiser. For a man who finished 2nd in the Tour of Flanders this year, Phil, I reckon that's quite appropriate.
Absolutely. So he's looking around to see what does he do next as he continues to smile. The USA Pro Challenge on NBCSN is brought to you by Strava. Strava, built for cyclists. By Road ID, it's not just a piece of gear, it's peace of mind. Get 15% off at roadid.com/ride. By X Endurance, the greatest athletic discovery since tennis shoes. And by Competitive Cyclist. Fuel your passion at competitivecyclist.com. So there we see Peter Sagan. He's still on the stage. Nobody's told me he can leave yet, so he's going to stay and wait, see what goes on next.
So there you go, the kiss for Peter Sagan as he makes it 3 for 3 of the USA Pro Challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, your stage winner.
Now, tomorrow, of course, Peter Sagan will feel, I suggest, Paul, for the very first time this week, that that's definitely a course for him.
Well, in fact, in the pre-race press conference, he said he was really only thinking about the stage into Denver because he thought the races were too hard for him. So I think he's laid the gauntlet down on the table to say, yes, he wants to win tomorrow, but they will all be queuing up tomorrow trying to beat this man.
Yeah, congratulations to him there from Metek. Let's have a look at our Colorado.com, the last stage map for you here as we finish in Denver tomorrow. It's all downtown Denver. It's a big circuit and it's quite a long ride for the riders as well. As we base ourselves on 7th Avenue, go out for a wander around this beautiful city, the mile-high city in Colorado, the state capital, of course, as the laps tick over, out through City Park. Guaranteed to be tens of thousands of spectators watching the action tomorrow. And there it is. We start at 5,243 feet. We finish 3 feet higher up. So I guess we can say, although the map looks a little bit ugly, I don't think it's too challenging for the climbers. So don't forget, we come to you, Stage 7 tomorrow, the Denver Circuit race at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on NBCSN, and then at 4 p.m. we take it to a conclusion on the NBC. For a full schedule, log on to NBCsports.com, and for all race information, visit ProChallenger.com. All of our apparel provided by Pearl Izumi. A great day in the end. What a full day of action in front of the crowds of Colorado. Tomorrow it all comes to an end. Please be with us and enjoy the festival. Goodbye.